Good evening. I want to welcome to the Finance Committee and public hearing on Tuesday, the March 17th, 2026. Tonight's meeting will include a review of a number of departments in town. And I was going to mention before we get started, it's going to be a public hearing, so I'm going to ask anybody that has any questions or remarks from the public that they approach or stand up and give their name and their address. We'd appreciate it and like to keep it to a kind of a minimum as far as the questions go on there. We've got a few things we've got to address before we start, and before we get going, I just want to go around the table and introduce the members of the committee. My name is Gene Budenhagen. I'm chairman of the Finance Committee. I'll go to my right.
Jim Flynn.
David Remington.
Kelly Barner.
Dennis O'Connell.
Vikram Chabra.
Victoria Pitney.
Thank you. And we have the town manager. I don't know if you'd like to introduce
Sure.
the people at your table there.
Sure. Good evening, committee members. Kevin Mizikar, Town Manager.
Alexandria Martinez, Director of Budget and Financial Planning.
Keith Baldinger, Assistant Town Manager for Operations.
Christina Ordon, Assistant Town Manager for Human Capital.
So before we get into the public hearing and the presenting of the departments, we just have a couple things to do. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the meetings of February the 12th and February the 26th?
Yes.
Yes.
Can I have a motion to
I'll
approve?
make a motion to approve both February 12th and 26th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's fine. Are there any other announcements or reports anybody from the committee that would like to express before we get started? If not, then I'm going to need a motion to open up the public hearing.
Make a motion to open up the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're ready to go.
Good evening again, everyone. I'll provide a brief overview before we get into the individual departments, which I know is the heart of our conversation over these three hearings that you all have scheduled. And our team is ready to answer any questions that you have and that of the public. So we come to you presenting a balanced budget, which we're required to under the general laws and the Town Manager Act. Through the operating budget, our proposal this evening, which we'll discuss over the next three nights, is for a total expenditure level of $169,821,308. A brief overview of that, $94.2 million of that is the recommendation for the education expenditures, which will be presented by Dr. Sawyer and the school committee. $37.5 million is for general municipal operations. $26 million is for shared operating support, which benefits both education and municipal operations. And then finally, debt service, which totals $12.1 million. Debt service declines year over year for the fourth year in a row as we roll debt off and pay down our principal. Shared operating support accommodates town and school staff through a number of ways, but the largest expenditure there is health insurance, which we're experiencing a roughly 8% year-over-year increase. I'll save the educational highlights for Dr. Sawyer and his team. Finally, the municipal side is mainly a level services budget with one exception. We're proud to bring forward a proposal to establish emergency medical services within the fire department. We have adequate funding for a portion of fiscal year 27, which this budget will cover. We envision starting that sometime around January through March of 2027. We'll be seeding that funding using free cash, which is our proposal this evening, to allow the program to get on its feet and then start to receive recurring revenues. In order to get to the balanced budget on the town side, we had to cut $2.4 million from requests that were made by department heads, which they stand ready to talk to you over the course of these hearings. There are three new full-time equivalents that are being proposed, two within the police department, one within the fire department, in addition to the EMS program, which is scheduled to have 1 EMS coordinator, and 8 firefighter, paramedics, or EMTs to staff the ambulance once we get it started. So that's just a broad overview. We have all the departments here to answer your questions, and we look forward to getting started with the hearings.
I just want to make one additional comment before we start, that the Finance Committee has had a chance to get into this budget in a lot of detail already, and we have also submitted some additional questions to the department heads that we hope will be presented tonight to give us a clear understanding of what's going on with their departments. So with that, we're ready to start, and I guess we're going to recognize the Recreation Department first. Yeah, we're set to go. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. Good evening, and thank you to the Finance Committee for the opportunity to be here tonight. My name is Laurel Roster. I serve as the Recreation Director for the town of Shrewsbury, and I'm proud to be here representing our department and to share a bit about who we are, how we're structured, and the role we play in serving our community. Our department is responsible for planning, developing, and delivering a wide range of programs, events, and services that enhance the quality of life for residents of all ages and abilities. That includes everything from early childhood programs to summer camps to youth and adult sports, fitness and wellness programs, special events, adaptive and inclusive programming designed to ensure that everyone has meaningful access to recreational opportunities. From an organizational standpoint, our team includes myself, 1 full-time program coordinator, 1 full-time events coordinator, and 1 full-time administrative assistant, and 1 part-time program coordinator. We are also supported by seasonal workforce, particularly during busy summer months, as well as partnerships with local organizations, athletic leagues, independent instructors, and other town committees. This structure allows us to remain flexible and responsive to community needs while delivering a high volume and variety of programming. In addition to traditional programming, our department also takes on several unique opportunities and partnership roles within the community. We manage 2 state-owned boat ramps in conjunction with the Office of Fishing and Boating Access. We support the bay rental process at the Donahue Rowing Center and coordinate and operate our local youth basketball league. We've also partnered with the Shrewsbury Senior Center to expand recreation programming for active older adults, offering opportunities at reduced rates to help ensure accessibility and continued engagement through a program that we call Play on 60+. Our tri-town partnership with the Northborough and Southborough Recreation Departments, called Rec Connect, with the mission to offer adaptive outings and social leisure programs for young adults with disabilities, is still going strong. This year was an exciting one for the Recreation Department. We moved into our new offices at 835 Main Street in the late summer, and we've begun hosting programs and events in our new space just recently as the work had been completed. We're grateful for the support of town leadership and the Department of Public Works for making this a reality. We also adopted a new recreation management and registration software this year called Rec Technologies. It is mobile friendly, and we are excited to utilize it to its full potential to improve our operational effectiveness and improve the user experience. The Rec Department also plays a key role in managing and activating town-owned recreational and park spaces by permitting athletic fields, renting picnic pavilions, supporting town events, and collaborating across departments and with other community partners. Our work is rooted in creating opportunities for connection, health, and belonging, whether through a child's first camp experience, an evening of live music at Dean Park for the whole family, or a program that brings people together who may not have otherwise had the chance to connect. At its core, recreation is about building community. We aim to provide accessible, welcoming, and high-quality experiences that reflect the needs and interests of our residents. I appreciate your time this evening and look forward to answering any questions you have about our budget.
Okay. I forgot to mention that the recreation budget is on page 196, if anybody has any additional.
Important page of the book.
We have questions from the board?
I had one question.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. So just one question regarding the app that you had mentioned. Is that expensed in your, is that reflected in your budget or in the information technology budget?
That's in our budget.
Oh, so
That line hasn't changed. We were paying for an old recreation software, so we
Okay.
swapped this out for a new recreation
Thank you.
software as kind of an upgrade, but our expenditure hasn't changed within our operating budget.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Yes, Jim.
Hi. Laura, I had a question on the Q and As that we sent prior. You had mentioned that annually you need to secure almost, or try and secure almost 30K
Yeah.
in donations. What caught my attention about that, and I'm kind of bringing in, when my kids were playing sports, I know we couldn't have like any advertisement or anything going on down at Dean Park, but that has since changed. So I was just looking for some clarity on like what's going on between that and what maybe this is. If you could just add a little color to that.
Of course.
Does that make
yeah.
sense, what I'm saying?
It does. I understand your question. Those are two completely different things,
Okay.
so let me clarify how they're different. So the banners over at Dean Park on the Little League fences are solicited by Little League, which is a local nonprofit, and supported in policy through the Parks and Cemeteries Commission. So the money that we're bringing in, this $30,000 that we're trying to garner in sponsorships, is purely to sustain like the community events that we've been putting on for at no cost to the community members. Truck or Treat, the concert series, things like that, which I shared this back with you today. I apologize. I was at a conference last week and didn't get them to you in a timely manner.
Oh, no-
That's
no
my
worries.
mistake. But so I did get that back to you today, and you can kind of dig into that a little bit more. But like those free to the community special events that we've been putting on for Shrewsbury residents kind of total up to about $46,000. And the 30 we bring in is offset by our revolving expenditure, our revolving revenue from program expenses. So we kind of even it out at the end, but without that big chunk of sponsorship income, the special events and concert series, things that cost a lot of money to put on, wouldn't be able to sustain.
Thank you.
Of course.
Yes, Dennis.
I think, I had a quick question on the revenue you're generating. Approximately how much is it, and how has it changed over the last 5 years or so? Is it going up, stagnant?
Yeah, our revenue is going up, not by not by a lot, right? But the point is to sustain ourselves via programming fees, so that we can cover our expenditures and then reinvest in those programs. So like our adult umbrellas of program service delivery, the money we bring in there is planned specifically to resupport the programming. By equipment, first aid supplies, like all of those things we have to purchase to make programs engaging and safe are all supported by user fees. When I got here a few years ago, I'm going into my 4th summer. So in recreation, we count how long have you worked there in summers. That's our busiest season of the year. So this will be my 4th summer here in Shrewsbury, and our revenue has increased.
Okay.
Not by as much as we'd like to say it is, but steadily and substantially. When I arrived here, pricing for programming was fairly stagnant and arbitrary, and so we've done a lot of cost recovery analysis and within our department to say how much do we truly need to charge to meet the needs of the community, sustain our programs, and then reinvest so that the quality continues to stay up to par.
Okay, great, thank you. And just one follow-up.
Yes.
Getting back to Jim's question, the donations, is that advertised? I didn't even know we could donate to the recreation department.
I'll send you a packet.
Maybe you put one in every town meeting chair, I don't know.
We do advertise it on our social media and in our programming booklet. Our events coordinator, Carly, takes the lead on this role of kind of garnering those sponsorship dollars and has a targeted approach to making sure the money she's asking for from a business matches their mission and their outreach goals. So it's fairly targeted, but I'm not gonna say no if you wanna.
Thank you.
Yes, Kelly.
So I know you only moved at the end of the summer into the new location on Main Street, and so it may not be reflected in this budget, but are you anticipating that having the new facility, the new office space, might even create additional opportunities for that revenue generation going forward?
Absolutely, yeah, that is the hope. Not only programming in that space, but also opening it up to, so we have the picnic pavilion rentals at Dean Park. We'd like to kind of consider this an indoor facility where families and maybe organizations or whomever needs an indoor space can rent the facility. It does come with an expense, as we need to have a staff member present and making sure that it's taken care of and cleaned and things like that. So we do hope to generate another revenue stream by using our facility to meet the needs of residents in like a gathering space kind of way.
Absolutely, thank you.
Of course.
David?
So how much more revenue do you generate outside of the appropriated funds, and how much do you keep in your reserve funds?
Our revolving account kind of reflects a little bit of everything, and we try to keep those buckets separate. For example, I don't include like the picnic pavilion income in our revolving account, like general reportings, because that is managed, we pay park staff to take out the trash, and like it goes back into that kind of same bucket, right? So programming revenue income over the calendar year 2025 was about $130,000. All of that revenue is then reappropriated into our programs and our department as a whole.
So I guess if I may follow up, do you have a planned reserve? Do you say X amount of percentage of my budget will make sure we target a reserve every year?
Correct, yes.
And how much is your target reserve?
$250,000.
And you're at 130?
So that's above the 250.
Okay, so you're at 380.
Correct.
Okay.
I can get you an exact number another day.
Okay. No, that's fine. Within $5 or $6 is fine.
Yep.
Any other additional questions? I have one. One of my questions was to talk a little bit about the Donahue Rowing Center.
Yes.
I think it's become kind of a big operation right now, and I wondered how it was going and how we were financially, because originally that was, when it was designed and given to the town, it was going to be kind of a wash. It was going to be able to generate enough dollars to take care of itself, including the maintenance over the number of years. And I know there's been some maintenance programs that have been done, and I'm just wondering how does that stand right now?
Yeah, so the recreation's kind of role in the Donahue Rowing Center is to manage the bay rentals for the facility users, right? There's also the Public Buildings Division and the Parks Division that manages the facility as well, and kind of schedules and manages costs for maintenance and repairs and things like that. I don't have that role in the facility. I can tell you, and again, in your response sent today from Alex, the bay rentals between like the colleges, high schools, and then individual rowers, that revenue yearly is about $99,000, which is then deposited into the DRC account and is used to sustain the facility operations and the maintenance of that rowing facility.
Just one, are we falling behind at all in the facility? Or should it be, we're looking at an enterprise facility?
I can help with that question. So as you know, the building's getting older, a few
Yeah.
decades old at this point, and we have some catching up. We do have some catching up to do, and we're working through that with the Public Buildings Division. They've been very supportive over the past couple of years, helping us keep the maintenance up. We know that we have to replace the sprinkler system in the bays and do some other work. But so it's ongoing maintenance. I think we're staying within budget on a regular basis. We have some other bigger items that we're looking at, such as docks, some dock work that has to be done, but generally speaking, the buildings are in good
Yeah.
shape.
But just a quick follow-up on there. I know we've had a lot of long-term rentals at that facility, including the college level and things, and I'm just wondering if we get into some big expenses that we should be, approaching those people to see, they've benefited from it for a long time now, so that they could contribute, along the lines. That's just my personal feelings on it, so.
So we do have somewhat of a reserve there. I have to get the numbers. It's part of our town meeting packet on expenditure levels. We have made some more substantial investments over the past few years in some masonry issues in one of the storage facilities. I can say that we haven't used general fund revenue to support those operations. It's all come from.
And that was the original goal, not to use it. Huh? That's all I had. I just wanted to be brought up to date.
One more question.
Yes.
Probably should have asked this earlier, but how many residents have you served in a year through the Parks and Recs? You have an idea? Is it?
I'm gonna, again, say, I gave you that question answer today.
Yes, but my fellow
yeah.
town meeting members who are going to watch this on TV, hopefully, because they didn't show up, it'd be good for them to know how many that you hit.
Yes. I should have rolled up the total. I have the per season, per service delivery umbrella numbers of registrations here for you. And I can tell you on this one, adult programs are actually our highest registration numbers, which is very unique. Typically, I think when you think of a recreation department in a community, you think of a lot of children's programming and camp and things like that. Our camp numbers, our youth numbers swell a little bit over the summertime, but uniquely here to Shrewsbury, adult programs are the most sustainable.
So you're saying the adults are really children.
You guys like to play. That's not a bad thing at all. It's a very active adult community, which is fantastic. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, Lynn, go ahead.
So in 2005, for training and conferences, you budgeted 7,000. Then at the special town meeting, 19,005 was approved, and now you're asking for 19,005 again. Could you just explain why that jumped up so much and now it's going to be a recurring expense?
We needed that larger jump over that year. So as our department grew in the time that I've been here, the people that I've hired on to do the event coordinator and the program coordinator roles have certifications that require, continuing education and conference expenditures and things like that to keep them up to date with those things, myself included. So the 7,000 didn't even really cover our state conference for all of us to go. So that big jump was to make sure everybody over the year got the professional development and the CEUs that they needed to sustain their certifications, credentials, and roles here within our department.
So that will be a recurring expense?
Yes.
Thank you. There's no other questions. We thank you very much for your presentation and look
Thank you
forward
very
to continuing the good work.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
Oh, excuse me.
Oh, sorry.
Anybody from the public have any questions before we let her go? No? No? Thank you
Laura.
again.
You're welcome. Thanks again.
Our next presenter will be the library. And that is on page 192.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Priya Ratnam, the director of the library. With me here today are members of the Library Board of Trustees, Lisa Powers, our chair of our trustees, Bob Trudell, Kathleen Thompson, Claire O'Connor, and at the back we have Deb LeBeau, April Prince, and Louise Deronde. I lead a team that consists of 16 full-time staff members and 27 part-time staff. That is 40% of the library workforce is full-time and 60% is part-time. Together, we ensure that the library is maintained as a community hub by offering safe, welcoming, and accessible physical and virtual spaces. We also ensure it's a literary hub by offering early literacy programs, diverse collections for varied interests, and afford residents opportunities to participate in book discussions and reading programs. The library is an information hub that offers easy access to plentiful resources and materials that support community members' diverse interests. We also strive to be a civic hub, inviting participation in democratic processes, convening community conversations, and inviting community members to contribute to multicultural programming. Last but not least, we offer cutting-edge tools to facilitate DIY learning and enable users to gain proficiency in STEAM subjects, thus ensuring we are an idea hub. Library goals align with the town's strategic priorities. Our librarians provide diverse educational, cultural, and recreational opportunities for residents of all ages, ensuring that the library contributes to a thriving, engaged, and connected community. Providing cutting-edge technology and a modern makerspace contributes to an exceptional community. Enabling residents' borrowing of materials contributes to their savings, ensuring a prosperous and sustainable community. Having a beautiful space and state-of-the-art technology alone wouldn't make a great library. Our dedicated, passionate, and empathetic staff is our main asset. Despite challenges posed by staff shortages resulting from extended medical leave, family care responsibilities, or vacancies due to retirement or resignation, our teams maintain momentum in planning and implementing high-quality programming and ensuring the continuation of excellent services. I'm very grateful to the town manager's team for recognizing our need for a new library manager, head of adult services position, and approving it in FP1, fiscal projection 1. 25% of this position's salary will be paid for by the municipal budget, and 75% will be paid from library state aid funds. This position will oversee the 2 reference librarians, and a key responsibility of this role will be the planning, organization, and management of community programs. The wider portfolio of the assistant director, who currently manages all this, would now be as head of administration and operations, and will include supporting the library director in developing yearly action plans, managing the technology team and the outreach and marketing librarian, planning and implementing a library-wide technology strategy, collaborating with other municipal departments, overseeing grant projects, and assisting the director with the hiring and onboarding of personnel. There were a few questions that had been asked, which I responded to. If you have any other questions about the capital budget or anything else, please let me know.
Questions from the committee? David first?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I know we sent in questions, but I didn't receive back them. So really about all the fees you bring in for the things you do, about how much do you bring in a year for the last 3 years, and do you keep a reserve fund?
So the library does not charge patrons for anything, for programs or any of the services that are offered. We don't charge fines for late return of items. We haven't charged fines since 2016, so we don't really have a revenue. So we don't have any, we spend money for programs with donations that we receive for the Friends of the Library and the Foundation Board. These are nonprofit organizations that contribute to the cost of programs, but we don't charge the library patrons for any services that are offered at the library.
Okay, so no copying or no charges?
Copying and printing, yes, and that money we do deposit in the general account.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
goes right back to the general?
Yes.
Okay. And could you talk on why do you need $50,000 for computers and printers?
Oh, sure, absolutely. Oh, that's the capital budget request, right? So in fiscal year 27, the capital budget request is for 20 computers for public use. So we have 17 desktop PCs in the adult section, 2 in the teen section, and 7 in the children's department. So there are 26 public PCs. Then we have 10 laptops used for technology training classes in the learning lab. These are ideally supposed to be replaced every 3 to 5 years. And then there are, the other part is for the printers, the cost of the printers. So there are individual printers available for children's room staff, the teen librarian, adult services staff, technical services staff, the circulation team, the director, the assistant director's office, and for the admin staff. So as I said, technology these days have to be replaced every 3 to 4 years, but most of the printers have been in use for 10 years. So in the 2027 budget cycle, we're requesting funds to purchase 20 computers and 4 printers. We don't have too many spare computers in case of emergency replacements. The cost of individual computers has increased, so this budget request is for having, enough to replace the computers and just 4 printers, though we have more than 4 printers.
Okay, so what are they not doing now that you need replacements for? Is it just a 3 to 5 year cycle, or are they not performing?
They are, I said ideally it would be a 3 to 4 year cycle,
Right.
but we haven't replaced the printers for 10 years. So we did replace a couple, but we just want to be, we are requesting only for 4 printers that have to be replaced, that would be replaced. So then it would be like each year we would replace some of the computers and the printers.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Priya. I had a question on the grant money and the money raised through donations. The programs that the library plans, how does it work in terms of your planning for various programs? It seems it's dependent upon monies coming from outside the operational budget.
Right.
So is it planned on the fly, or like if you get the money, do you do it, or you get? If you could speak a little bit about that, that would be great.
Sure. Historically, the Friends of the Library organization has contributed towards our program funding, and we can rely on them for about $25,000 every year. So we plan in advance. It's not on the fly because we print out our newsletters every quarter, and we start planning programs 6 months in advance. So we rely on this funding for our day-to-day programs, and then for special events like our Distinguished Speaker Series and bigger programs, they are sponsored by the Library Foundation, which is also the organization that contributes to our programming. And then there is the Cultural Council grants and other grants that we've received.
And you have a fair idea at the beginning of the year that those grants will come with that fiscal year.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Dennis?
Just a clarification. What's the average age of the computers that you want to replace? Are they 6, 7 years old, 3 years old?
The library building, the current expansion happened 10 years ago, believe it or not. It's been 10 years. So most of the equipment that we got, the electronic equipment, dates at least to 10 years.
Okay, so they're probably also not even able to run the latest software.
Right.
So they'll be out of compliance.
Some of
with
them have
everything
been
else.
replaced because each year we get a capital
No, I
budget
think
for that. Yeah.
that makes it all the more, to me, reason why you need to replace them. Because they're not going to be running the right software at this
Right.
stage.
Exactly. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? I have a couple. Certification, we're still in good shape.
The accreditation?
Certification from the state.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Okay, no problem there.
No problem.
And you also got one expenditure of equipment for 58,000. What does that include?
That was this current fiscal year's capital budget, and that was for security gates and self-check computers. The security gates are at the entrance to the library. There are a couple near the main entrance and near the west entrance, and near the entrance to the bathrooms.
Is that a replacement because we did those a number of years ago?
That's a replacement because the software, they had to be compatible with Windows 11, so they had to be changed, and the hardware also had to be changed.
What was the lifespan to that?
That again is 10 years, so it had,
10 years?
yes, it's been 10 years.
Yes, sir.
And it's, I'm not trying to beat this, but I just need clarification. So when Dennis asked a question, we're talking about software compliance.
Right.
So these 20 computers are to replace 20 computers that can no longer run programs, so people can't use them. Is that correct?
Right. So there are different ways in which we use programs. So this, for some, you need more software, specialized thing. But then after a few years, we will rotate these computers and they could be used for our OPACs. OPACs are our online public access. The catalog that is there on some of the computers, that needs only the catalog. So we would be able to use the some of the computers for as OPACs. So we'll not discard those computers just because it's 10 years or something. We'd use it for some other function.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
One last
Yeah,
question,
go
please. I had another question on some of the challenges that you had listed in the notes that you had provided to the committee. You had mentioned that the library operates around 63 hours per week. And it did seem that staff was working maybe more than expected to make that, which is deeply appreciated. But I was just wondering, is that sustainable with the current resources you have?
It sometimes feel like we are stretched thin. Staff is, juggling multiple responsibilities and doing a lot. As I mentioned in that, we're open, 12-hour days, and there are 3 public service desks where staff has to interact with the public and provide services, in addition to behind-the-scenes work that is going on with collection development, with cataloging of books, and maintaining the collection and all of that. So it is challenging, but I have a wonderful staff, and they're all doing as well as they can be expected.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Oh, so again, is there any questions from the public? Do we just have the 2 people in the public, or is it all staff? Oh, okay. It's all staff, it's all.
Well, thank you for coming.
At least somebody cares.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Actually, we really do appreciate it.
Yeah. The next on our agenda is the Council on Aging. That's on page 186. Would like to introduce yourself,
Sure.
Holly?
Yes. Hi, my name is Holly Luke. I am the Shrewsbury Council on Aging Director, and I'm here today to talk about the finances of the Council on Aging Department. First, I'd like to begin by letting you all know that we have 7 full-time people and 3 part-time. We have myself, who is full-time, Assistant Director, full-time, Transportation Coordinator, full-time, Outreach Coordinator, full-time, Office Assistant, full-time, Food Pantry Coordinator, she works 15 hours a week. 2 van drivers, that 2 are full-time and 2 are part-time. To talk about a little bit about the Council on Aging and the Senior Center. So when I talk to people about the Council on Aging Department, I always break it up into 4 different categories. And those categories begin with outreach. So outreach is a really large umbrella, but one of the things that outreach does is we provide resources to Shrewsbury seniors that are 60 and over, and that could include application assistance, food assistance, housing assistance. I also categorize us collaborating with outside partners to build our relationships so we can provide more resources under outreach. The other one is transportation. So we have a 4-vehicle fleet, 2 of which are owned by the WRTA. The WRTA vans are utilized for medical work and grocery shopping and things like that.
Then we have 2 of our own vehicles that we provide special trips to. So for instance, one of our biggest one is the casino, but then we have restaurants and we have museums, and things like that, things that will enhance the quality of life for the seniors. Then we have nutrition. Nutrition is really large at the senior center. We have a very active food pantry with currently just about 190 households that are utilizing it. We offer Monday through Friday congregate dining that is assisted through Elder Services of Worcester. With that, we have the Meals on Wheels program, and we currently have just shy of 200 people that utilize the Meals on Wheels program. In addition to those, that we also have a Tuesday evening dinner. So like for instance, this evening, we had about 70 people over there enjoying a corned beef and cabbage St. Patrick's Day dinner. The cost for that is always $5, and we offset the rest of that with our state formula grant that we received, which is roughly about $138,000 a year. In addition to that, we also offer, with our congregate meals twice a month, we offer Indian cuisine meals that people can either opt for an Indian lunch or one of the regular meals. And then one of the other categories is programming. Programming is really large too. So Laurel had mentioned before, we are collaborating with the Recreation Department, and we have established a 60+. So what we end up doing is we provide the funds through with our state formula grant, and the Recreation Department puts on the programming that happens. So we offer a lot of programming inside of the senior center, and we also really try to push people outside of the senior center too. So we'll collaborate with other senior centers, as well as outside organizations like the Orchard Grove or Benchmark and things like that. So we really try to expand our marketing and our advertising. I also did want to, sorry, I forgot to mention this before, but I did want to thank my advisory board members who are also Shrewsbury seniors themselves, and they are Alex Roman, Lawrence Mayone, Shangara Dahal, John Deshays, Ruth Scala, and Raquel Carmen Wexler. I did receive the questions that you all sent, and I hope that my answers were satisfactory, but if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Questions from the committee? Yes.
Do you have a reserve fund about how much is in the reserve fund?
So one of the things that the Council on Aging Department has is we do have a few funds. So we have the general fund, which everybody has. Then we have the Formula State grant that we receive, and that's roughly about $138,000. And the way that's calculated is it's $16 a senior, and that comes from the 2020 census. So we do have that. Then we have a gift fund, and we have several different line items in our gift fund. So the general one that we have is roughly about $20,000, and then we have one that's for our food pantry, which is about $7,000. Then we have another one that is an agreement with the WRTA. They help, they pay for the 2 full-time van drivers that I mentioned, their salary through an agreement. And then we also have a revolving fund that we utilize. That money is for the maintenance of the vehicles that I mentioned that are town-owned.
Thank you.
Additional questions? I just have one in reference to fundraising about the garden.
Mhm.
You were raising funds for that, and all of a sudden I haven't seen it in the monthly newspaper again. Is that still in progress, or did you make it?
Yes, sir. So our goal was 43,000. We have just shy of 33,000 right now. And what we are working with the building department, and we're going to be sending that out to bid. So hopefully the sensory garden will be in the beginning of its creation by the beginning of June.
Is there any other pending projects in the senior center itself as far as maintenance and things go?
So I know that there is a discussion about the roof replacement, that is through buildings. We are replacing our event floors. So last year I had mentioned that we're in the beginning of, Shrewsbury has become dementia friendly. So we've been doing a lot of reconstruction of the senior center we just painted, and I would invite everybody to come over and see the new painting because it really does make a complete difference. So then I just mentioned that we're also replacing the event floors. The way they are now is they're not dementia friendly, so we are going to be upgrading those. I did talk to the building department today, so hopefully we'll be able to sit down and get that done in the next six to 9 months. And then the only other projects that I can think of is updating our ADA materials that we have. So I really want to put the door openers on our bathrooms so it's easier for them to get inside and outside, making sure that our walkways and our sidewalks are safe for everyone, as well as doing an upgrade or not an upgrade, but when all of the mechanical locks were put on the senior center, one was omitted, so we're looking to get that one put on.
One follow-up with Keith, how far along is the roof?
So the roof's a capital request for this year. It's in our capital.
It's in the building budget, or?
It's in the capital request budget.
Oh, okay, all right.
And it's the original roof from 2001.
Dave?
Looking at some of the stuff you gave us, we had 1,002 unique individuals last year, and you're at 1,004 now. So just quick math is about 125 people a month. So in the next 3 months, it's going to be hundreds more than you had last year. Do you see by the end of the year, you able to provide that food and service, given that it's going to be maybe a third to 40% higher than last year?
So my biggest concern is that some of the things that we are doing will become routine and will not be able to really make anything bigger because of the limited staffing that we have. So I do project that we will have, just as you mentioned, those additional numbers. And so what I'm hoping that myself and the rest of my team will be able to accomplish is not for us to plateau, but to kind of work with the engagement that we're given. But I do have some concerns there with our growth.
Thank you.
Yes, Doctor.
Thank you, thank you, Holly. You had mentioned, I think, 8,000 plus volunteer hours from the community. And I know you have some great high school student programs as well. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit on how it helps offset the burden of cost and what the benefits are.
Sure. So, yes. So thank you. So we have roughly about 130 volunteers right now, and they range anywhere from Meals on Wheels drivers to our receptionists. And we do have an active student group as well. And they do allow us to continue the programming. You know, if we were to hire office assistants that helped us answer the phones, we'd be looking at another $150,000 or whatever we have a year. So they are very valuable. However, keeping in mind that volunteers and the work that they do and the work that we do, the difference is what we do is not episodic, right? So what we do is we come in every day and we have to, again, you know, really maintain those 4 categories that I was talking about. And whereas the volunteers assist us, there isn't a loss to them if they don't come in, right? It is to us. So it's wildly important that that we have that structure, that support from the volunteers. And when they're not there, it really is a big gap for us. And it prohibits me from getting out into the community. It prohibits my outreach worker from getting out into the community and, you know, being able to make ourselves bigger. As you can see, Mr. Remington had mentioned before about the growth that we've had, and I only see that continuing. So I'm just wondering how we're going to do that with the staff that we have right now.
One follow-up.
Yes, go ahead.
So are there any liability issues for volunteers to work with the episodes that you're mentioning?
No liabilities that I can think of. I mean, there are restrictions that we have on them, so when the receptionists, take phone calls and things like that, they are asked to log, hours in their interactions. But we do keep everything else that's confidential to the staff only.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Is there any questions from the public? If not, we thank you very much.
Thank you.
And have a good night. The next is public health. That's on page 183. Good evening.
Good evening. Thanks so
Would you like
much
to introduce yourself?
for having me today. I'm Annette Garcia. I'm the Regional Health Director of the Central Mass Regional Health Department. We're the health department that serves Shrewsbury as well as Grafton and West Boylston. As many of you probably know, in July of 2025, these three communities came to the decision to leave their previous arrangement with the City of Worcester, and we're so happy to be here in the host community of Shrewsbury to continue providing core public health services to our member communities. Our health department currently has 6 full-time staff here in Shrewsbury. We have one full-time principal department assistant, 2 full-time regional health inspectors, 1 full-time regional public health nurse, 1 full-time regional public health coordinator, and then myself, the full-time regional public health director. Our programs really fall into 3 different core service areas. The first is our environmental health programming, which constitutes our largest body of work. Those responsibilities fall primarily to our regional health inspectors. They enforce local, state, and federal sanitary codes, so that's anything regulating food, housing, recreational camps for children, tobacco, your tattoo parlors. We go and conduct routine inspections for those facilities to make sure that they're adhering to any sanitary and safety code regulations. In calendar year 2026, we're expecting to conduct over 800 routine inspections across our 3 communities. About 475 of those will take place here in Shrewsbury. That doesn't include any follow-up, pre-operational, or complaint-based inspections for those permitted facilities. Additionally, it doesn't include our body of work that relates to complaints we receive from residents that may be about nuisances, including noise, odor, dust, and pests. Those often require multiple follow-up inspections from our inspectors to go make sure that any of those nuisance conditions have been abated. Our second body of work falls under public health nursing. Under this, we provide community education to reduce the burden of communicable and chronic diseases in our member communities. Our public health nurse will also investigate cases of reportable diseases that's required by state law. So she'll follow up with healthcare providers, with the individual who tested positive to make sure that they're following all quarantine and isolation procedures, as well as just to provide general health education to ensure that them and their families remain safe. Our public health nurse also supports foodborne illness investigations if there's any cases that implicate a Shrewsbury food establishment. They conduct these in collaboration with our health inspectors to make sure that any possible foodborne illness risk factors are being addressed properly. Our public health nurse also does a lot of community outreach by supporting nurses' hours and blood pressure screenings for our senior populations. Our third body of work, which is probably our newest with our regional public health coordinator who started with us in January, is community health programming. So here we're really supporting our partnerships and initiatives to improve community health services and programs in the community. These look like working with pharmacies to offer vaccination clinics, hosting blood drives, developing mental health and substance use prevention programming, and working on other regional health bodies to ensure that we're aligning Shrewsbury's priorities with those of the region to help make sure that we're being efficient with our funding and our use time. That really covers our primary work, but I'm happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Question? Yes, David?
I noticed this year you asked for $28,000 in car mileage and $31,000 in other charges and expenses for travel and dues that weren't there the previous years. Why is there a jump up?
Yeah, so the car mileage is to support the regional positions that have to travel between our 3 communities. They get travel stipends. So previously those positions were hosted in the City of Worcester. Now that they're here in Shrewsbury, we're supporting those fees for those regional positions.
So it's just reimbursement for mileage for their own cars?
Correct, yes, we do, yeah, we don't have a health department card.
Jean, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Garcia. I had a question on the shortfall that was made up through a grant. So I think roughly about $200,000 between your request and what was given.
Mhm.
So that is related to a position, it seems. And question number one, was that a federal or a state grant? And two, you have mentioned that it could have significant impact if we don't get that grant, a similar grant in following years. That's just for 1 year. So could you speak a little bit on that?
Yeah, definitely. So the health department is funded partially through local contributions from our 3 municipalities and then the Public Health Excellence Grant. So this is a state grant that health departments are receiving to help support regionalization of public health services. So in fiscal year 27, we're being awarded $461,000 from that Public Health Excellence Grant. Currently, that grant is only promised through fiscal year 27, so we don't know what's happening in fiscal year 28. There's certainly strong support from the state to continue this program, and they've seen, very significant success in helping bolster that local public health workforce. But if it's not awarded, we would not be able to fund our core positions. So currently, local dollars, when it comes to paying our salary line items, fall about $136,000 short. So that shortfall is made up from that Public Health Excellence Grant. So certainly if we don't receive it, we would see a reduction in services and staff size as a result. One of our core goals this year is to really undertake some strategic planning initiatives. We're looking at financial stability in the case that grant is not awarded in fiscal year 27, fiscal year 28. So we have investigated other grant opportunities that may support that shortfall.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Carol.
If that grant is not renewed or extended for fiscal year 28, at what point would you find out?
That's a good question. I don't know. I'm hoping sooner rather than later, but when it comes to the state and my experience with kind of the final say of these grants, it has been kind of on the later end of the fiscal year. So it all follows the state budget, so it would be after their.
So you may not have a ton of time to wait, and that's why you're doing the pre-planning now?
Correct, yes.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Any other questions?
Gene,
Yes.
So I'm trying to follow along with this one. So let's just say the grant wasn't allowed. Would that impact some staffing as well, potentially?
Yeah, so if we did not receive the Public Health Excellence Grant, we would not be able to cover staff salaries for our positions. So we would likely lose a health inspector, part of our nurse's salary, our regional public health coordinators currently fully funded by the Public Health Excellence Grant.
Yeah.
That's eye-opening to me. So, I mean, it feels like you're running bare bones now. Like, and you talked about a strategic priority moving forward. I mean, to lose an inspector, is there a minimum we need to be having in the town that's growing into, I think restaurants come to mind, right? Or just those, not dismissing, excuse me, the others, but it's just,
Yeah, it would be
blown away
tight.
by the number.
If we didn't have our current staffing levels, we would not be able to meet the minimum inspection requirements, so we wouldn't be able to conduct, all the routine inspections that we are right now. So I would say that we're certainly, especially in growing communities, I think all 3 of our communities are seeing growth in their food establishments. We're seeing more large-scale housing projects in all 3 communities, so that may result in more housing inspections. That I really think we're kind of at our minimum staffing levels right now to ensure that we can meet the community needs and provide that high level of service.
Last one, I promise.
Yes.
I'm just, is there a minimum we have to adhere to, like a state requirement in terms of inspections?
Yes, so there are state requirements for certain types of inspections. It's usually written within the code. So
Okay.
for food inspections, you're required to do one of two things, either 2 times a year or risk-based. So in Shrewsbury, we're risk-based. It means our low-risk food establishments like your convenience stores or coffee shops are getting inspected 1 time a year, but then your high-risk restaurants like sushi establishments are being inspected 4 times a year. Comes out to roughly the same number of inspections, but it helps make sure that you're utilizing your resources more efficiently to address those high-risk establishments. Pools are inspected twice a year, tobacco establishments twice a year, so there are minimum number of inspections.
That's helpful, thank you.
Could I ask a follow-up to
Yes.
that? So, does that mean those, if you don't, say, worst-case scenario, we don't get the funding and we don't have inspectors, does that have economic impact, sort of a domino effect that those institutions have to shut down, the restaurants and they're not getting inspected?
It would have an impact on health and safety. So it wouldn't necessarily have the economic impact. However, they wouldn't have that checks and balances to make sure that they're adhering to the code. So what could happen is if we don't get to an establishment, let's say it takes us a year to get to their routine inspection, they may have significant health and safety violations that could possibly result in a closure. Where we're able to visit our establishments more frequently, so your typical restaurants 3 times a year, we're able to work with them to make sure they're taking on steps to make those corrections and address those health and safety concerns so that we don't get to a level where we would have to close that establishment.
Yes, Mr. Manager.
So this doesn't make it any better. I feel the anxiety from the committee that we feel on a day-to-day basis. This is how public health has been run in Massachusetts for decades. It's very grant-driven, even in the core operations. We stepped out away from the city of Worcester to be the recipient of the grant and have better control because we didn't think it was being managed as we wanted it to be managed in Shrewsbury. I know the state legislature is working on funding this program, on a multi-year basis going forward. Whether it's included in the FY27 budget, that's the hope that we have, that they don't wait until the 28 budget to refund this program that we're receiving these dollars through. In addition to what Ms. Garcia said, I feel we're not trying to alienate our fellow communities that we support right now, but Shrewsbury's contribution with local dollars is not as great a gap as it is to some of our partners. So we're working on getting our partners to contribute more, and we'll be forced to do that if we don't get the grant funding, if they want to receive the same level of services through the agreement that we have. So it's not the best business model. It's not a business model at all, but it's not new for operating these programs.
Just to follow up on that, we couldn't let it fail anyways with the number of establishments
Right.
we got in town. We would have to fund it. We've always had that behind the scenes on there. So if there's no other questions, I have a couple. Go ahead.
I think you just kind of touched on this a little bit, Kevin, but you're discussing the contributions from West Boylston and Grafton. Are those calculated with some formula to kind of proportional to number of residents or number of establishments that need to be inspected? I'm assuming there's some formula to calculate how much they're paying.
Yeah, it's somewhat of a legacy from the prior agreement, so, but we are getting, through the strategic planning, and Annette and Alex can fill in where I have gaps, but through the strategic planning that we're trying to do, we're trying to identify those specific numbers to make sure it's more right-sized. Population isn't, I'm gonna steal Annette's words, so population isn't the best contributor because I think West Boylston has a similar number of food establishments as Grafton does, so it's not really the best, so we need to right-size that a little bit.
Could you just share those amounts while we're talking about? That was one of the questions from Grafton and West Boylston.
Sure,
Yeah, certainly. I have those numbers of their contribution. So in fiscal year 26, Grafton contributed $116,000, West Boylston $36,000, and then Shrewsbury $198,000. They're roughly matched to population size right now, although they're a few percentage points off. So I think they're using an older population estimate for that cost share.
But they're much greater this year.
So in fiscal year 27, we're requesting from our communities a 2.5% increase. So that would be Grafton 118,900, West Boylston 36,900.
Gina, I have one question.
Yes.
If we get partial funding or not any funding, do we then just drop Grafton and West Boylston and just do Shrewsbury? I mean, it's a question.
Yeah, so we have intermunicipal agreements, so formal contracts between the select boards of those communities to provide services, just 1 year at a time though, and that's the approach that we're taking again for 1 more year. Yes.
Thank you.
I just had one question. I didn't hear you mention septic inspection. Is that still under your?
It is, yes. I was remiss not to include that. It is still under our purview. And actually, in Shrewsbury and Grafton is a pretty large body of work. It's about 90 to 100 inspections per year under Title V for septic.
Right. Is there any questions from the public?
Stephen Mealy?
Yes.
Birch Lane. I just wanted to ask about.
Could you come to the microphone just so everyone can hear?
Yeah, Stephen Mealy, Birch Lane. To that, I was just wondering, not only do we have the grant that is in question, I guess, every year, what grants are you actually pursuing? I think you mentioned something about that. I was just wondering.
Yeah, so this year we've applied for an FDA retail food program grant. So we applied for their entry-level development grant, which is $5,000 per year. But if we are granted that, which we should hear by the end of April, it opens up an opportunity for us to pursue a greater grant, which is upwards of $35,000 with some optional add-ons. And that programming will help support our food inspection program, so it can help us, pay for inspector salaries or any equipment related to that food protection programming. There's also a number of other state grants that come out from time to time, so we don't have any active grant applications out there, but we're constantly sitting on those opportunities. One of the other ones that we hope returns is called the RISE grant. So this is a matching grant for opioid funds, which can help support a lot of public health programmings. And what that will do is we can apply for the opportunity for the RISE Foundation to match funds that we're investing from our opioid settlement funds to help support that programming. So we weren't around in time for this year's cycle, but that's a recurring grant that comes up every year around November. So we're definitely have our eyes on that one as well.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Is there any additional questions? If not, we thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next on our agenda is the planning board. Oh, you coming first?
No building.
Oh, excuse me, I
that okay?
I
We can do it
apologize.
in any order.
I was jumping the page back. Sorry about that. Welcome.
Thank you.
We're on page 124 and 127.
Hello, so I'm Patty Sheehan, Building Commissioner and Zoning Enforcement Officer, here to present the budget for the Building Inspector's Office. So the Building Inspector's Office enforces the Massachusetts State Building Code and the Town of Shrewsbury zoning bylaw. The building inspector staff consists of Joe Riley, our plumbing and gas inspector, David Lyons, our contracted plumbing, gas, and mechanical inspector, Dale Blue, who is our electrical inspector. Then we have Alex Moriarty and Eric Bolin, who are assistant building inspectors, and Emily Larson and Kristen Rapolo, who are the assistant administrative assistants. So in 2025, the building inspector's office collected $1.9 million in permit fees. The proposed budget was about $790,000, which was including 1.5 additional positions, one being a deputy building commissioner and another being another administrative assistant. Those positions did not move forward in fiscal projection 1, and therefore the budget is about $653,000. So we did present to you the one-page summary of our departments and answered just 2 questions that you had. Those documents were supposed to present the challenges that our department, the building inspector's department, has right now with, increased requirements of the Massachusetts State Building Code that went into effect July 2025. Also, the new regulation for the accessory dwelling unit that went into effect February of 2025, and many other things. So I'll stop there and let you ask any questions that you may have that I may have presented to you in those other additional documents.
Question? David?
So you said you collected about 1.9 million in fees. Do those fees stay in your department, or they go back to the general fund?
General fund.
Okay, so do you have any revolving funds, any?
No.
Okay, you have no revolving funds. Okay, thank you.
I had a question.
Yes, sir.
And thank you, Patty, for the information. So I had a question. It was a little bit concerning in the challenges and that you had mentioned, this public safety concerns, because you have a shortage of staff. There's new, as you just mentioned, more complex codes have come, and sometimes there may be buildings that have public safety deficiencies that go unnoticed. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit to the committee on that and expand on the problems and what sort of mitigations the town could do.
Right, so as I was explaining in the additional information that I provided, is generally you find violations in 2 ways. One is that we actually conduct inspections relative to permits and certificate of inspection applications, and you document the violations, and of course work with the applicant, owner, and tenant to get those corrected. Sometimes they cross departments between building inspector's office and fire department, and of course educate is first. We always educate, explain why they have to be done, give a reasonable time for those to be done, but then it's a task, right, to follow up. You have to go back, you have to still reinforce, and then if that doesn't get corrected, we do have a fining process. But when we do not get voluntary compliance, the next step for enforcement is to go to town council, which is something that we have to do more of and document inspections more. But I do need additional help in order to make sure that we're staying on top of all of the violations that we find. So, violations of not maintaining a sprinkler system, not maintaining a fire alarm system, kitchen suppression systems out of date, fire extinguishers out of date. The deputy fire chief and I just went to inspection. We do our commercial inspections at 7 a.m. because that's before businesses open. We flow water in the sprinkler system. No, did not activate all of the systems that it had to activate. Did the fire alarm system, the beacons on the outside of the building were not working. Fire extinguishers are out of date. Relocated shelving, blocked horn strobes, emergency lighting. So there we go. We have to go back, document all of that, request that we have a 14-day reinspection, and if we don't get a response, we have to make sure that we track that to make sure we are going back.
Yes.
If you added staff, would that offset or add to the $1.9 million revenue? Would you be able to generate more revenue with an added person?
No.
No? So that wouldn't help you generate revenue?
No.
Okay. I was hoping.
I'd like to say yes, but no, because the inspections that we have to do, we do them. We are doing them in a timely manner. We're just, expanding our hours like we can do, or actually, so the initial inspections, we don't have a problem getting to the initial inspections. It's the follow-up inspections that generally lag behind because of the lack of staffing.
But the follow-up could lead to fines, which would be revenue.
Yes, actually, that's true. Yes, the fines could lead to revenue.
And public safety. I mean, probably more important part is
It's public safety.
you can, if there's a sprinkler that isn't there, we can make sure it's fixed before we have an issue.
Right.
If I could just add on to what, are some of these buildings like apartment buildings, multi-unit residence, in where the risk is even larger than just say a single house?
Yeah, so what I'm talking about is these types of violations are in commercial properties. They're in public properties where we have a requirement to do, say, annual inspections, or they're doing some type of alteration or new tenant or new kitchen, new restaurant. That's where those types of things are coming up. When we go into a single-family home and we're doing an inspection, because we don't have annual inspections of single-family homes, you're going in relative to a building permit, and then, you're finding that maybe they installed the wrong beam size, or they didn't follow up and get their electrical inspection yet, and they're already moving ahead too fast. So those types of things are directed to the owner and contractor to follow up that their permit has to stop until they correct these issues and call us back. It's their responsibility to call us back. We don't know when they're done. They do, so they'll have to call us when they're done.
So this seems to be a significant risk that the community is facing. I was just wondering, Kevin, did you have any insights on this?
Yeah.
To Patty's concerns?
Yeah, so one of the positions that we are proposing is within the fire department, which is a fire inspector position that we do think, and Patty can provide, clarity or comment on my comments, will help with some of the workload that is going on, or that she has experienced, especially on the certificates of inspection that need to be done, the more, annual routine inspections that we've been deficient on. So it was part of the consideration that we had when we were kind of making those hard choices with the funds that we have available.
Yes, Dave.
Is it possible to contract out any of these inspections?
Yes, it is possible. So that would have to be an additional fee to the property owner. So we would say, for an annual inspection, instead of paying $100, which is all we charge for the deputy chief, building inspector to go out, and sometimes additional firefighters because they go along to be familiar with the building. For $100, we're going out to do these, these annual inspections. So it would, to hire private, it would cost the property owner or tenant more than just that $100. So it would be an additional cost to the applicant for that. The other reason why I don't ever want to do that is because we want to be familiar with our own buildings. You want your building inspectors and you want your firefighters to be in those buildings, being familiar with them. I just really hesitant. I'm hesitant to contract that out at very last resort.
Okay, thank you.
Could I just do one follow-up on that? On the apartment complex, and don't we use a third party?
So we're trying to we have 180 apartment complexes that have common areas that are subject to annual inspections. We're behind on those. And yes, I attempted to bring in a third party to actually get us caught up on those. We are not caught up on those, but only on that type of occupancy because we're so far behind.
Is it because they're not bidding to take a contract, or why?
So what is problematic is trying to get the property managers and owners to actually submit the application, pay the fee, and coordinate the inspection. And it's very low response in us to get them to respond.
And as a town, we don't have any clout to force them to do that?
So that's an ongoing issue. Multifamily apartment building inspections, just going to say, is across the Commonwealth. This is the most frequent issue in communities, that we can't keep up with those types of inspections that the building code says that we have to do. So I actually, if I had more staff, we could get to them or send more enforcement letters. We have sent letters and we have called the property managers, but yeah, we're not getting the response to actually get the inspections coordinated.
That's kind of a sad situation. Yes?
I'm sorry, Victor.
Oh, yes.
I have more of a future projection question, and it may be more for town leadership, but we've heard some pretty significant safety concerns tonight from a couple departments. So I know we had some requests for, was it like 17 additional FTE? Do we only do that on an annual basis? Or do we kind of say, we've identified a couple pressing needs for this year that we couldn't fund, but like those are gonna be top priority for next year? Like is that incorporated in our future planning?
It is. We request departments renew their 3 to 5 year staffing plans and individual requests within each budget cycle, though. So it would be up to the department to reprioritize that for our discussions.
Any additional questions from the committee?
Just to follow up to that one.
Yes.
I know it's up to the department, but if we see a major issue with a department needing something, do you?
Oh, of
I
course.
think you already did. You moved some budgeting around
Yep.
so that we get two police captains, and a firefighter. So
Correct.
that is something that's on at your level as well.
Yes.
None from the committee. Do we have any questions from the community? If not, we thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice to see you again.
You too.
The next item on our agenda is the planning board. Welcome. Like to introduce yourself, Chris?
Thank you,
We're on
members of the
page
committee.
119 and 122.
So Christopher McGoldrick, Director of Planning and Economic Development. I staff an office that consists of myself, our Assistant Director, Louise O'Neill, two assistant planners, Kishal Raguram and Griffin O'Neill, as well as part-time admin staff, Emily Larson and Kristen Rapolo, shared with the building inspector. We also have in our office Emma O'Connor, who staffs the CPC, although they're not included in our budget. It's a separate item through the CPC account. The primary functions of our office is to provide staff support to 6 local boards: the Planning Board, the Zoning Board of Appeals, Shrewsbury Development Corporation, the Affordable Housing Trust, Complete Streets Committee, and the Community Preservation Committee. We also engage with a number of other local boards and entities on an as-needed basis, including the Trails Committee, Traffic Advisory Committee, and other groups as well. In addition to those functions, we maintain land use regulations and municipal plans, such as our housing production plan, our open space and recreation plan, among others. We're also a municipal liaison to nonprofit merchant associations and economic development groups, such as the Shrewsbury Town Center Association, the Lakeway Business Development Association, the Metro West 495 Partnership, and additional entities beyond that. Our FY27 request is largely level funded this year, with a few following exceptions. We did request an increase in the part-time admin to a full-time level in coordination with the building inspector's request. We also requested that the second assistant planner be placed fully into the budget. We understand that those have not been funded for this year. Speaking to that, the additional technical expertise, as outlined in our memo, the additional technical expertise that's been added in the past years has supported operations during sustained development pressures, state legislative action, and newly formed boards and committees that we support. However, staff capacity to perform beyond the expectations in these areas is often diminished by fulfilling more minor administrative tasks. So without the part-time admin position, I think our office will struggle to maintain current high levels of public engagement, project review, and policy development, and meet those challenges in the way that the public expects at a high level. We'd also be limited in pursuing grants and implementing sub-area reported projects and exploring opportunities beyond those base level of services that we're currently providing. We did provide that memo to the board, and we did receive some questions back, primarily around our FY27 preliminary goals, requesting essentially what are each of those items trying to capture, and what does the success criteria look like. So I'd like to step through that a little bit. I believe they were provided to you, but I'd like to step through those briefly. So our first goal is to expand regional involvement. What we're looking to capture there is to enhance monitoring and identification of regional and state objectives that are relevant to the town. So by engaging with additional chambers of commerce, the business associations, the Metro West Partnership, and other entities, we do talk to other surrounding communities nearby, other planning groups, and we're able to kind of through those conversations have a deeper understanding and shared expertise among communities. So there is a lot of benefit to that. Although we're engaging those activities now, I think there's an opportunity to expand that in ways that, again, that additional staff support would help us to achieve. Success in that area would be an increased community advocacy for local objectives within those regional and statewide groups. And it would help us to identify those regional opportunities to achieve local goals. In terms of the open space and recreation plan update, what we're trying to capture there is that plan primarily makes us eligible for Division of Conservation Services grants. And so although grant eligibility is one of the primary concerns or objectives of that, it also really helps us to deeply understand the community needs and objectives around open space and recreation. That is something that in our conversations with community members, I think is a growing concern about open space amenities. The Parks and Rec Department presented earlier and showcased a lot of the great work they're doing, and I think, having that conversation with the community of how we expand on those is going to be important. And also, we just recently have the Community Preservation Coalition. That was after this current update. So incorporating those opportunities and those objectives into the updated plan will be important. So success in that area obviously would be adoption of the plan, but also success would be application and hopefully successful receipt of a DCS and CPC grant applications. And then finally, the master plan update. What we're looking to capture there is a review of the town's goals and objectives as outlined previously back in 2016, so that's now a decade ago, and set the next 10 to 20 year vision for the community around areas of land use and regulation, economic development, public facilities and services, housing, transportation, natural resources, and open space and recreation. Success in that area would look like approval of the master plan at town meeting and providing actionable and comprehensive objectives to meet that community vision so that we can do that process again in the next 10 to 20 years. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Questions from the board? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chris, for that detailed presentation. So I was a little concerned about the when you talked about public outreach and how you're a little bit, because of the 0.5 deficiency, a disparity between what you asked and what you got. And you did touch upon public outreach, and we all are aware of how there are growing public concerns about what people see as excessive growth in the town. So how does that affect our ability, the town's ability to communicate and engage, especially with something like the master plan update, which I think would be extremely beneficial to educating members of the town, not probably in public hearings, but so are there other ways we could leverage town resources to make that happen outside your department?
Yeah, so currently with the master plan update, which we do have funded, we do have a consultant selected to conduct that plan. So that consultant will do a lot of the outreach. Our office obviously will engage in that, but I think we're really prioritizing that and not looking at necessarily a lot of other objectives that we could be. We're really prioritizing that to make sure that our staff are heavily engaged in that outreach and discussion process as well. Although, it's great to have support from consultants, we do want our staff to be engaged with the community that they serve, and so it's important that we are involved in those outreach processes. When we have to be conscious of our hours, and a lot of those outreach opportunities, in addition to the administrative tasks, tend to lend to long night hours, and it could be difficult to balance that. So again, we've gathered a lot of technical expertise, but with those long days, it can be difficult to balance out all of those objectives and make sure that we're providing all those opportunities. There's a real hunger for discussion in the community. Every time we have these public engagement opportunities, we've been doing them prior to larger projects. We've seen a high turnout and we've had great conversation. I want to sustain that level of outreach, but that's difficult to do with our current staffing levels.
Additional question? I have a couple. Number one, In reference to the master plan, will this incorporate the Route 9 and the Route 20 redevelopment?
Yeah, so the areas of the plan is transportation, and they look at both local and regional. So certainly the redevelopment of the Route 20 master plan would be incorporated in that review.
And one other question I have is, the other night you made a presentation at the select board, and I didn't quite understand it, for a new tree bylaw. I wonder if you could maybe.
Yeah, so that's actually not going to be on the final town meeting warrant, so I'm not.
Oh, okay.
It will-
I didn't catch the whole thing,
Yeah.
so I'm just asking the question. I was
Yeah.
concerned about it. Thank you
Yep.
very much. Is there any questions from the public? If not, we thank you very much, and at this time, we plan to take a 15-minute break. Maybe we can take 10 and progress a little bit faster. How's that? Thank you.
Works. So we need a motion to take a break.
Thank you. We're ready to continue, and we're going to have the management information systems. Would you like to introduce yourself? And this is on page 111.
Hi, good evening. I'm Rosanna Malaver, the Director of Information Technology for Shrewsbury Electric and Cable Operations, commonly known to our Shrewsbury residents as SELCO. Our department provides IT services for town departments and in a very limited capacity to the schools as well. Our department is staffed by 5.5 FTEs. So beside me, we have Alexander Caldwell as the IT Infrastructure Manager, Joseph Sherry as the IT Support Manager, Mark Valancourt as the Network System Administrator, Steve McKinstry as a Tier 2 Support Specialist, and Raul Martin as a part-time Tier 1 Support Specialist. I would like to take the opportunity as well to honor the memory of Greg Honorado, who passed away last year. He was born in Shrewsbury, worked in Shrewsbury, lived in Shrewsbury, and he did a great job in his tenure as a former director of this department. I believe it's worth mentioning that our department supports approximately 400 users. That includes full-time, part-time, and seasonal employees, as well as contractors, vendors, and auditors. We support approximately 1,000 end-user devices, and that includes computer equipment, desktop laptops, all-in-ones, peripherals like monitors, keyboards, mice, desk phones, headsets, printing equipment like printers, copiers, plotters, scanners, mobile devices like iPads and cell phones, and other types of devices like recorders, digital signature devices, TVs, key fobs, ID badges, etc. We also oversee the system administrator of multiple enterprise and department-only systems, and that includes financial systems, permitting and licensing, monitoring, CAD systems, property assessment, field management, record management, data processing, meter reading, dictation, AI, body camera recording, website, online payment, voice over IP, and more.
That's it?
We also support the infrastructure, the network infrastructure like servers, switches, firewalls, Wi-Fi, access points, security cameras, key fob readers, PA system, panic buttons, electric vehicle chargers, etc. for 19 major buildings and 60 minor sites. We are involved in the implementation of new technologies and new systems by any town and SELCO department. In calendar 25, we received a total of 2,175 tickets, and that is our regular operations. And 77% of those tickets were related to town business, and 23% were related to SELCO business. For the town, we replaced 45 laptops, 3 desktops, 34 iPads, and 1 printer. We had 45 onboardings, that's new hires. It doesn't mean new positions per se, but it means new employees. 66 off-boardings, and that includes retirements, resignations, and terminations. Cybersecurity has been a recurring theme for the last few years, and it continues to be of the utmost importance to our team. And a lot of the new initiatives and changes in operations are influenced by following cybersecurity standards and best business practices that we need to adopt. We partnered with the state of Massachusetts in their cybersecurity awareness program. We understand that the biggest threat is not a direct attack to our network, but it is the exploitation of our human condition, right? So we designed a training program to help our users understand the importance of physical and cybersecurity of our data, systems, and equipment. If I can direct you to the budget overview. We are requesting an increase of 12.64% in our budget for this year. In previous years, the footprint of technology has increased tremendously with the introduction of new sites, just like the new PD station, and recently the remodeling of the Rayston Post building as the recreation department. We also took ownership of the library network and the security access to maintain consistency in physical and cybersecurity standards, and that means that we have to support approximately 50 more users. So that increases for this fiscal year, it will increase our count from 400 to 450 users. And that also increases the cost for per user based subscription like Google, user equipment management, antivirus, and other types of systems. I heard your question in poor Priya about her request to, replace library hardware, and we are most definitely the culprits behind that request. As part of our cybersecurity standards, we only support and allow in our network equipment that is under warranty, that has up-to-date operating system, and is able to run latest critical security patches to mitigate known vulnerabilities. So 10-year-old equipment certainly do not pass that test. And just like Priya, we have had to come up with creative ways to be fiscally responsible and at the same time provide the best possible service and equipment to our users. So for example, we changed the end user replacement cycle from 3 years to 5 years, but we have to buy higher quality computing equipment. And if you follow tech news, you probably know that since February 1st of this year, the memory and storage equipment has increased 20 to 40% in cost. We were also able to adjust software licensing costs by taking advantage of better pricing from volume purchases when we collaborate between town and Selco. So as an example, Adobe has a program for large government agencies. If we buy 100 or more licenses, the price dropped 40%. So Town and Selco created one account, and we were able to drop the cost 40% per seat. We also share the procurement and maintenance cost of critical IT large capital infrastructure between Selco, Town, and schools to alleviate the financial burden for the three organizations. And we have also partnered with the schools and the town in cybersecurity endeavors such as penetration test and cybersecurity monitoring, detection, and mitigation systems. Just please know that we're doing our best to keep a safe environment for our users to thrive. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll try to answer them to the best of my abilities.
Questions from the committee? Dennis?
First question is, I know 4 years ago had never done a penetration test.
Yes.
3 years ago still hadn't. Are they now scheduled annually?
So because of the cost,
Yeah.
we are doing every other year, but we run quarterly health checkups in our network and we received a full report of all known vulnerabilities, and we address them as they come up.
Do we do any self-scanning? Because you can get tools to
Yes.
do
So-
basically the same penetration test on your own.
Not as in depth as a penetration test, but yeah, we have software that help us, you know.
And then I had a second question. Are the schools integrating more in with Cellco now? Because I felt they were very separate and they wanted to be separate. And I personally, my belief, having been in this industry for 30 years, is it'd be better off having them merged together as much as possible and sharing resources. Obviously, there's two different schools, are a little bit different software, so they'd have their own software people.
Yes.
But
I think it also depends on the benefits that they get as an education, you know, agency. For example, for Google, right? Town and Cellco are government, so we have to pay for licensing.
Okay.
But schools get the benefit of free licensing because they are an education agency. So it's a lot of those, you know, things and benefits that they have because of the separation. But whenever we can, like IT infrastructure, like big infrastructure like firewalls, switches, and things like that, fiber connections, we share that type of
Okay.
you know, equipment and cost.
Great.
I have two questions. Two questions. Thank you for presenting it so well. So one question I had was related to cybersecurity. You mentioned that the threat has changed. A few years ago, there was some instances of ransomware in Massachusetts in which towns were taken down. Is that still a threat? And if it is, what are the mitigations your team is taking?
Yes, so we have partnered with Arctic Wolf as our cybersecurity vendor. Their telemetry is excellent. So any attacks or any, you know, threats that are coming from the outside, they are great at letting us know, mitigating, and communicating with us, and blocking. We still had the internal issue of, you know, users clicking and things like that, but since we've partnered with the Cybersecurity Awareness Program, we've taken measures to educate our users in how to appropriately, you know, review the sender of an email. If it's not directed to you, please don't click on it. You know, report us phishing as much as you can. Let us know if, you know, something looks, you know, out of place. And I think we've done a good job at educating our users, and our users are always aware of these type of
Okay.
things.
I had one more question, not related to this. So you did mention rising costs, and there is a significant 200K roundabout difference between last year and this year. So could you just, was that inflationary or you said cost of memory and equipment?
Yes, so
Could you
it is.
expand on that?
Yes, so it is cost of equipment, but also additional seats, right? Like I was mentioning before, library was not part of our user portfolio before. So now we have to buy additional Google licenses for them, and the cost has increased a lot. So it's 50 more licenses per user per year, are around $250 each. We also have antivirus. We have our monitoring systems for end user equipment that we have to install in all of their laptops, desktop, and things like that. More network equipment because their network equipment was really antiquated, and we want to bring them up to our standards. So it's a mixture of adding more users and more equipment to our network.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, David?
So as they ask for new computers and more computers, what is the additional cost per computer? So we have the hardware, right?
Yes.
And then what is the additional cost per computer that we add to the town?
So it's the management of the equipment and the supervision of the equipment. So a lot of our software is based on, it's user-based. So for example, Arctic Wolf, which is our cybersecurity vendor, we have to install a client on each computer, and that adds up to the cost of the overall, you know, annual subscription. So those type of things. Antivirus is the same thing, Google Sheets and all those other costs. So if you're looking for a specific number per user, I can definitely calculate that.
I mean, I guess the question is, if we buy 10 computers or we buy 20 computers.
Right.
Is it just literally this much per computer, or is it this much per group of computers? Like, do you hit every group, or do you, because I know the library is a little different because you have public using them, and they shouldn't be connected to us at all, right? They're completely off.
Yes.
But as people, if we're going to get a new computer for everyone in the town every 3 to 5 years, that's a cost.
Yes.
And then if we had additional costs to that, which are sort of hidden in our, because when we get your fees, it's just a contract fee to you. So we don't see that breakdown.
Yes.
So if you could give us the breakdown, because we may not be able to afford completely getting new computers all the time if there's this added cost that's sort of hidden in our contract fee with you.
I have, well, end user equipment is considered a town-only expense. So I do provide to the town manager's office a breakdown on all the costs and additional cost, licensing, because it depends on the type of user, right? An engineer may require specialized software that is very expensive versus an administrative person that doesn't require like AutoCAD and things like that, right? So we tried, when we do our calculations, we run the type of equipment and the type of software that equipment will be need.
But I guess if I have engineering software and I get a new computer, it's the same engineering software.
Yes, but if we add new staff, new engineering staff, yes.
And then that's it. So the
Correct.
extra licensing, that's in the town, or is that in the telco side?
That's all town-only subscriptions, yes.
So there's nothing in this contract fee about our subscriptions?
No. Well, only shared expenses like, for example, Google, Adobe, and network management support. So Arctic Wolf, voice over IP or Zoom contract and things like that.
And that's per computer?
Not every software is user-based. Some others are tiered. So if you have, for example, Zoom is, if you have 100 through or 0 to 399, and then a second tier from 400 to 699 and things like that.
Because a concern I have is that we buy 10 extra computers, which puts us over that, because I've gone through that where you're 10 computers over and your cost doubles, but we don't know that when we say, oh yeah, buy 10 computers, puts us over the number. Next thing you know, it triples our cost of software, and now we're $1 million where we didn't expect.
I understand.
So that's kind of what I'm saying, is we're making sure that we don't hit those additional software sort of thresholds that's going to cause us, all this extra expense that we didn't budget for.
No, I understand. And when we do the calculations to present to the town manager's office, we actually have a per user calculator that we use to calculate the cost of additional systems and additional software. Yes.
A clarification, if we're just replacing existing computers, it shouldn't change our subscription costs.
Right.
Those are there. It's if we're adding new computers, which would probably be adding new personnel to get it.
Correct.
But, the library computers, if you take those 20 out, well, it's a little bit different because you're probably putting them onto the software for the first time. But if they were already there, you would just, every 3 to 5 years, you just, same licensing cost. It's just a new machine on top.
Correct. But in this particular
this
fiscal
particular-
year, library is addition.
Yep.
It's an addition to our budget.
Thank you. Thank you for the detailed presentation. I have a couple of follow-ups
Yes.
to the conversation that was happening. So from a cybersecurity perspective, I appreciate that you have creating a program.
Yeah.
But there are other ways, like at least at workplace, get tagging, right? Like
Yes.
something comes along, there is an external as a tag.
Yes.
So do we do that kind of audit also through our email systems? If not, whoever vendor is, are we working through that?
Yeah, so we are currently working with one of our vendors to do an data classification audit to all of our emails, all of our data in Google. So just to make sure that we have the correct data privacy settings and we're tagging, appropriately, right? All the emails, documents, and everything that we're storing in Google. So yeah, that's one of the initiatives that we.
And then to follow up to David's point earlier, and I know at town-wide, Kevin, as you have mentioned that, there is asset inventory, asset, tagging is going along.
Yes.
So there is a lot of equipment that get used
Yes.
behind the scenes. So
Yeah.
are you through that exercise, or are you initiating that
Yes.
exercise?
So yes, so as we replace equipment, we actually have a tag number. I'm not sure if I have one in my.
I have one right here.
Okay. Yeah, so we actually
The
add,
town manager has one.
yes.
So the reason I'm asking is because, I
Yes.
think it will give you, or I don't know about based on historical data, like
Right.
we would like to understand what's that useful life is, right?
Yes.
Of a particular equipment, and
Yes.
then we will be able to estimate, like, is
Mhm.
this approaching an end of life, and we should be budgeting for some
Yes.
capital expense because it's coming to the end of life.
Correct. So every November, I generate a list of equipment for the following calendar year that is going to be out of warranty, and we present that as in a memo format to the town manager's office, saying these are the new standards and this is the equipment that need to be replaced, and the projected cost based on the latest quote that we get from our vendors. So we present a detailed information of how many we are going to replace, which ones are going to be decommissioned and disposed of. So we do have that kind of agreement already.
Okay, and last question.
Mm-hmm.
I know you talked about the ticketing, like
Yes.
any user request or even internal, you track it
Yes.
through the ticketing system.
Yes.
Do you classify the response time, like how long does it take based on a classification, severe versus, user facing? How long does it take to close it out?
So we are working on KPIs to provide more information with regards to open tickets and type of tickets and the specific time that it takes to resolve the request.
Okay, I think it will be good to kind of share that
Yes.
through the, the newsletter that comes around.
Mm-hmm.
It will be good to share that,
Yeah.
how efficiently
Noted.
you guys are operating.
Yeah, definitely. We do present monthly information and monthly metrics to the town manager's office with regards to the type of tickets, how many we open, how many we close, the distribution between our technicians and, department, broken down by department and categories. So they have some sort of information. But yes, I'm working on the KPIs.
Thank you.
One more question. AI becoming a big thing. There's ChatGPT, there's Claude.
Yes.
Is Shrewsbury using any of that?
So we formally sent, I think it was last month, an email saying that because we are a Google shop, Gemini 3 is our, official generative AI app.
And then a follow-up.
Yeah.
Is it hosted at Shrewsbury at Selco, or is it hosted at Google?
So it is hosted at Google.
Okay, so there is a little bit more security that you need to do with that.
Correct. So yes. But we do have, that's why we're going through the data privacy and data classification exercise, because our Gemini instance is only targeted to our workspace app. So it doesn't share information with the external world. It's only logged down to the security setup that we created in our instance. Yes.
And a follow-up to Dennis's question.
Yes.
Sorry, we're asking you a lot.
No, go ahead.
So is Gemini 3 available to every employee?
Yes, because it's part of our Google Workspace apps.
So is there going to be any training for how employees can use it to be more efficient in their work?
Yes, that's coming down the line. Just because it's so integrated with all the other Google applications like your Gmail, your tasks, and everything. So we are putting together an educational plan for our users. Actually, Joe Shari, who is the IT support manager, he is working with a vendor to create content for hosting different training sessions for our users, and that's coming in the next few months.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions.
Yes.
I bet you those ticket number ones go to the town manager and Keith and Alex when they're needed.
Yeah.
No.
I just want everybody to understand that
We're
this budget.
self-sufficient.
Sure.
That their budget is all the town side of it.
Yes.
It's got nothing to do with the Selco end of it.
Correct.
You mentioned one thing about the charging stations, and I
Yes.
kind of hit a note. You're monitoring those. Do you know what the cost is running?
No.
We have a number of them throughout the town now, and
Yes.
people ask, they're free? Like,
We had an issue with a former vendor. We have, I think it was the ones back here, the ones installed at the high school, and I think another location. And the vendor went bankrupt, so they stopped supporting the physical asset, and people could plug in and just not be charged. But we are working with a different vendor to actually, repurpose the use of those EV chargers with a different system that will allow us to
I
charge.
just think that's something that should be, shared with the public.
Yes.
On there. I think that's an important thing. There is several locations, from the town hall to
Mhm.
North Shore to the high
Yes.
school,
Yeah.
all around.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Is there any questions from the public? If not, we thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you so much.
The next on our agenda, and I guess it's gonna cover retirement and the accounting, and I guess the manager is gonna take
Yep.
those two.
Yeah, happy to do that, because the accountant wasn't able to be with us this evening. So I will start with retirement. So Shrewsbury operates its own retirement system. Many towns in the region participate in a group setting, like Worcester Regional Retirement System. There are several that are independent and on their own. This is overseen by a group of elected members, one appointed by the select board and then elected from the membership of current employees and retirees. We currently have a little over $184 million of assets on hand, which represents about 96% of the outstanding liability for the pension system. That's one of the highest percentage of funding in the state, as we always have been, subject to market fluctuations that we experience. We did make an adjustment at the annual town meeting, increasing the amount of funding for FY26 up by $500,000 to $3.1 million. This represents $2.8 million to the pension system and $300,000 to OPEB. Or do I go wrong? Is OPEB in this number?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
$2.8 million to retirement and $300,000 to OPEB. And OPEB is other post-employment benefits, which represents the town's contribution to retiree health insurance once they retire. Happy to answer any questions about the retirement system, if there are any.
Any questions? I just had one quick follow-up. Reading the school budget, there is a number of people that work in the schools that are covered under the town retirement
correct.
system.
Yes.
What is that number?
I don't know the number off the top of my head, but it represents all non-teachers, which would include paraprofessionals and administrators. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Yes.
Can I have a clarification? So when you say non-teachers, is it non-union?
Yes, all union teachers are in the Mass Teachers Retirement System, so a separate system that we don't manage.
Everybody else is on the top.
That's correct.
Is there any questions from the public on the retirement? If not, we'll continue to the accounting department.
So the town accountant's budget provides salary and wage funding for 3 positions: a town accountant, assistant town accountant, and an analyst. They oversee the daily auditing and accounting function of the organization, managing accounts, ensuring expenditures were within the means that the funds were put in place for. They handle all accounts payable for the town and the schools and Selco, as well as payroll for town, schools, and Selco. And the department originally requested a payroll director position that we weren't able to fund. It is a critical need that the town has. It would be an opportunity for us to likely merge payroll operations with the schools and further consolidate. That would be enabled through the work that we're doing on our human resources information system to move to a more digital format for time and attendance in our payroll processing. We've spent now the last 2 or 3 years really investing in our ability to use the system that we already have, using modules that we are already purchasing to customize and digitize our processes to make them more efficient and more cost effective. And it goes beyond the accounting department. It goes into the individual administrative positions across the organization that support payroll processes, in the time that it takes to, process the 89 employees that are in the Department of Public Works and the police department, things like that. So we're making a lot of progress. A lot of investment and time goes into it, each and every week. And this position will be an opportunity that we'll consider in the future as we get further along on that digital transformation. So pretty simple budget as far as staffing and expenses goes. The largest expense within that separate appropriation line is the annual town audit that's done. It's a single audit that's performed, including all federal funds that we receive mainly for the school department, but of course we received that large federal grant this year that will be part of it as well. So happy to answer any questions about accounting.
Yes, Dave.
So I think last year we spoke about this office is the dispersing official for all funds. They're not the certifying officials, correct?
It's the opposite. The treasurer collector disperses and the town accountant certifies.
Okay, so they're the certifying officials and the treasurer is the dispersing official. Okay.
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
Yes, Victor.
Thank you, Kevin. I was just wondering, the move to digital, could what the previous presentation, our access to Gemini and AI, could that somehow negate the need for an additional person in future, or is that something being explored?
It's not being explored, to be honest with you right now, but I understand the opportunity that could exist with that. It may not be needed. That position may be needed, or we may be able to further reduce other resources needed to actually process the payroll. And it is something that, AI is something that we're exploring and have had some recent conversations with, trying to pull a work group of interested town residents together to help us kind of identify some strategies and opportunities that we may have to kind of expand upon the work that we're doing. So we know it's an opportunity for us, and that could be a great area, yes.
Yes, sir.
You talked about the additional payroll person and possibly able to merge in with the schools. What would be the cost savings if we could do that? Would we have 2 payroll people, or
Any idea?
I would.
So I think right now the school department has 2 employees who process payroll, and we have 1 centralized payroll function within the accountant's office, the assistant town accountant. But we have over 15 employees across the organization that play some part in processing payroll at a departmental level. So I think a centralized payroll function would look like 2 payroll coordinators with 1 payroll manager, and then better utilizing those other 15 administrative staff across departments to do higher level work and more meaningful work.
So would there be, I guess, what would be the more meaningful work? Is there going to be a benefit what meaningful work would that be? And I don't mean it in a belittling way, but
Yeah.
what are they not able to do right now?
So I think that a lot of it comes down to the goals that they're putting in the performance appraisal system and being able to expedite. So I know that through this finance committee process, you've received many of the goals that our departments are working on over the course of the next fiscal year. All of that work could be expedited because those boots on the ground staff members would be able to redeploy those hours into this more meaningful work.
Okay.
Yes.
So by consolidating this payroll, or let me put it this way, how many towns within Massachusetts are adopting this kind of a model versus not? Do we know? And what are the benefits out of it? I understand why you're trying to do, I'm just trying to do the cost benefit analysis in my head.
There's many communities in Massachusetts that outsource their payroll altogether. And then there's many communities in Massachusetts that are undergoing the same process as we are, trying to better utilize their HRIS systems. And so I'd say that there's a good split between the two, and all of us recognizing that the way that we've always done it isn't beneficial anymore.
Yes, sir.
So I worked for an organization of about 400 sites around the world. And we had a program. I could do it wherever I was. I put in all my stuff. It was sent in. We had it coordinated down in DC. We had a coordinated office that would hit it. And that was thousands of people. The supervisors, everything was done online. Approval of leave, military leave, everything. So when you said there's 15 people in this town doing it, it seems like a lot of people comparatively to if you had a program that did it, why would we need 15 people to process it?
So that's precisely what we're moving to. So we've recently launched employee access, and we're trialing it through multiple departments, the town manager's office and the human resources department being one, where employees enter in their own time and paid time off. It's approved by their supervisor and it flows into payroll. So we're actively working towards that and making meaningful progress.
And those 15 employees aren't dedicated to payroll. They play a role in payroll. So they're an administrative assistant within a department, and they may collectively combine to still way too many FTEs, but it's not 15 FTEs that are dedicated to payroll.
Okay, so it's every 2 weeks there's somebody who does some sort of data entry.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
But way too manual right now, to be clear. Yep.
Yes.
Could I just ask one follow-up on the school end of it? They're just doing payroll, or are they doing also healthcare, retirement?
So they're also managing deductions for dental and for vision. But they're not managing any additional, they do have an employee who's managing deductions for retirement, but that's a one-time setup.
Are they full-time staff, or?
They're full-time staff, and that's the retirement deduction is a part of their job with MTRS, because that's a separate system than the town system. And then the two payroll employees on the school side manage dental and vision deductions along with the other payroll functions. School is also moving in the same direction as the town in moving to employee access and having non-exempt employees input their time and their time off through employee access.
So it's kind of still up in the air whether the town is going to handle it or whether the school's going to handle it, or what are you coming to conclusions on?
Our goal is that every employee will enter in their own time, and that will be approved by their manager, and it will flow directly into payroll. There is still back-end work that's needed in the collection and the review of that information that our goal is to be done by a centralized payroll department. We still have a lot of groundwork to go before we reach that point, and analysis to understand how many full-time employees we would need to complete that back-end work.
So you're saying 2 or 3 years out?
I would say we'll have a much better vision by the end of this upcoming fiscal year. And I believe that we will have all non-union town departments entering time in and paid time off through employee access.
Any additional questions?
Just more of a curiosity. I hear what you're saying, and you know, not to put words in your mouth, but you're playing catch up a little bit, it sounds. Are we still in an environment where we're cutting biweekly checks, or is it all direct deposit? There's no paper going on anymore, right? It's all,
Very few paper checks, yeah.
there's still some?
Yeah, I believe there's still some.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Dennis?
I'm just gonna follow. I think that get back to my original question, is at some point, if you merge these together, you'd have hopefully fewer people working on it. So there would be a benefit if this, I guess my question was trying to push, if you think this is an important position and it would actually save money, then it might be, you know, a position that we want to look at earlier.
Yeah, we don't think it's hindering us not funding it this year. We still have a lot of groundwork that, you know, is going on the kind of the IT side of things and training and position control and all those types of things in the HRIS system that is a limiting factor.
Okay.
Yes.
So just to follow up to that HRIS, so, you know, how is the implementation spread out? And if you're going to talk in your presentation, that's fine, I can hold back because I think we are kind of deviating into more human resources things, so I can hold, you can answer it later, it's fine, you know, I just wanted to.
I think the time spent is the same, whether it's now or later. So we have a business systems analyst within the town manager's office that has been spearheading this project and guiding us through. Our benefits coordinator within the human resources department is the town's HR lead on this project. And then there's several members from the school department who also are within these meetings, and we're working very closely with our vendor.
So at some point in time, onboarding of a new employee and then working through the deductions and everything, and then time management, leave management, performance appraisals, everything, and then, you know, if he or she leaves, it's all managed through this HRIS.
Yes, we've actually began onboarding new employees through all electronically. We have had some bugs along the way. And most recently today, we were discussing managing licensing and the query process through this system. So we're looking to utilize all of its features to the best of our ability.
Thank you.
Any questions from the public? If not, thank you very much. The next is the treasurer collector, and that's page 101. Good evening.
Good evening.
Introduce yourself. And
I'm Amy Perkins, the treasurer collector. I work alongside the assistant treasurer collector, Erica Armenti, who's actually in the audience tonight. She's so excited to be here. Then we have two full-time financial assistants, Richard Zuzak and Nancy Casaselli, who make up our team. The treasurer collector's office collects and safeguards all of the town's revenue. So whether it be tax bills that we collect or any other revenue collected by other departments, that gets turned over to us, deposited. In addition to that, as mentioned before, we're the disbursement end of AP and payroll. Erica handles a lot of the end processes of payroll and getting that out. So outside of being the town's financial hub, our budget's pretty boring. There isn't a lot of changes aside from the COLAs compared to the fiscal 26 requests. So happy to answer any questions.
questions from the committee?
I will commend you for actually lowering your request from 26.
That, yes, is just a small extra request we had in fiscal 26 for tax title.
I was just kind of joking a little bit, but also saying it's good to see you actually lowered it.
It wasn't in our initial request, but was needed based on new legislation with tax titles.
Yes.
I know in your departmental goals, you have mentioned like enhanced resident guides and e-government outreach. Can you just kind of elaborate a couple of lines?
So we have City Hall Systems, which is our online payment portal, but we found that aside from making auto payments occasionally, a lot of the residents aren't taking advantage of its full benefit. So it's e-billing, e-notice, you can set up auto pay, but you can also access your payment history, which this time of year we get a lot of requests for, what did I pay last year for real estate and excise? So we want to try to help them see all the benefits of setting up an account and what else it can do for them aside from just the occasional online payment out of convenience.
Thank you.
I had one question, Jay.
Yes.
Thank you, Amy. You did mention in one of your challenges being there may be more delinquencies due to declining economic conditions. Are we already seeing that, or is that something you're just preparing for?
I think we're just preparing for it. Year over year, collections are very consistent. So I had provided previously where we're at with our data, and percentage-wise, we're on track with previous years, despite maybe there being an additional billings for new builds. And
Maybe you could just touch a little bit on taxes, collections, and a little bit on investments.
what about collections? Just
How are they going? Is there any difficulties in collecting past due taxes?
There haven't been. We are still in the process of, we just recently got mostly caught up with tax title. So we do have fiscal 25. We had to send out new demands because there was an additional form with the new legislation that we needed to include. So we will be putting any delinquencies from fiscal 25 into tax title. But there's no large amount compared to previous years. It was just a backlog of delinquents that hadn't been put
You
into
say
tax.
no large amount, were you talking $500,000 or $1 million? I don't know.
In tax title, currently, we have 102 properties totaling 2.1 million, some of which is water and sewer liens included.
That's a sizable amount. Yeah. And the other, I don't mean to jump in, is are you getting along all well with the changeover at Bartholomew with the new people that have come on board?
They're all people that we have worked with previously alongside Chuck, so yeah, there's no issues with that. They were all familiar faces. And
Yeah.
Just a point of clarification though, on the $2.1 million, that's not a single year. That's multiple years. That's everything that's in tax title.
Everything that's in tax title dating back.
And then how does that, if you did it on a moving average, is it right around, I think we were around 2 million a couple of years ago. So it's not.
Some have been paid off.
Yeah,
So it's kind of.
It's not
as
necessarily
the year gets
increasing
on.
significantly.
No.
Okay.
We collect about 98.5% of taxes every year.
Additional question? Yes, Warren?
Do we correlate with like new residents coming in, going out? How does that fluctuate?
There's no good way that we would be able to track that. I don't know if either water and sewer or assessors have records of new address changes, but I don't have that information.
Well, title information, doesn't it come to town? It does, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So we should be able to track it.
The assessor's office.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think, again, I'm not saying why we are not doing it. I think there is an opportunity to start looking at it that way.
Absolutely.
How do we see, our revenue going up and down, depending upon the new development that is coming in, but at the same time with existing residents, what is the traction that we are seeing?
Yeah.
It would help track something.
Any additional questions from the committee? If not, from the public? If not, we thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm here for debt as well. So the debt service, the only change is permanent financing of a Mass Clean Water Trust loan. That was added on, it went into permanent financing.
So there is a principal and interest payment in fiscal '27 that we didn't see in fiscal '26.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
The next is town clerk and election. That's on page 106 and 109. Good evening.
Good
You'd like to introduce yourself? young
I'm
lady?
Sharon Thomas, the town clerk. On the town clerk side, we have myself, an assistant town clerk, Kim Dayhill, and an office assistant, Michelle Bowers. And then on the election side, we have an office assistant, Jane Bell, and then we also budget for our board of registrars, election workers, and police details for election day. Our major functions in our office are vital records, election administration, voter registration, dog licensing, census, maintenance and updates to the bylaws, public records request, town meeting, planning and zoning submittals and decisions. On the budget for the town clerk side, pretty much remained the same. The election side had to increase due to budgeting for 3 different elections, so we also have to incorporate the cost of in-person early voting, vote by mail, and advanced processing. So that's why we saw the increase on that side.
Questions from the committee? Yes, Dave.
So I think those election, we'll get reimbursement for the elections, correct?
Not for everything to do with the elections.
Okay.
It's only cost associated with the in-person early voting, vote by mail, advanced processing, and supplies that are used. You know, like when we mail out the mail-out ballots, we're using address labels. We have the ink that we go through for the postage machine, you know, all sort of like consumables. So we track all of those costs and then submit to the Division of Local Mandates for certification. They certify our cost and then send off to the Secretary of State to then be reimbursed.
And I think what you said in your memo was about $73,000 we're gonna get reimbursed.
Well, that's what we got reimbursed for in the past.
In the
So it's
past.
based on the
Okay.
cost. So in 2024, I did put in for a piece of equipment to do, in order to do advanced processing because of the volume of the vote by mail. It's too hard to be able to send all of those ballots to the polling locations for processing because, you know, for November elections, you have that steady, you know, stream of voters. And if you'd have to check, you know, you have to check in each of those, you know, ballots have to be, you know, checked in just as the voter was there themselves. So I purchased a high-speed scanner, which is how we do the advanced processing. So that one piece of equipment was $25,000 that the state did reimburse us. So we're obviously not gonna have, you know, that cost going forward, but all of our expenses will be tracked for, you know, staff time that works, you know, for the in-person early voting and any extra hours that they're putting in for, vote by mail processing and advanced processing. All of those costs will get submitted to the state. So, you know, it's gonna depend, our reimbursement's gonna depend on what we actually expend for costs. You know, it's gonna depend on the volume, of ballots that we have, so.
Go ahead, Lon.
So just follow up to David. So do we get reimbursed for the cost of, like, you know, securing the ballot until the, you know, for the, especially the early voting, you know, or the transportation of that?
I mean, we store the ballots in our vault.
Okay.
There's, yeah. So advanced processing's all done here,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
And then they're stored in the vault. Once the ballots are processed, they're sealed and they remain sealed.
Got it. So
Yeah.
we don't send it, like for state election or something, we don't send it to the state authority?
Not the ones that are advanced process would be done here, so anything that comes in, that we receive in after advanced processing, those just get sent to the polls for processing. So when whatever we already have on, like, by the morning of election day, those get, we'll go out with the police, bring out the ballots and the equipment to the polling locations.
Okay, thanks.
Any additional questions? No? We're jumping around between the town clerk and the election. I was just gonna ask, are you gonna also be responsible for the electronic voting at the town meetings?
So, yes, yeah, we have a training scheduled, so we'll be working on, getting our standard operating procedures together after we take the training class, but we'll be working with the town manager's office. There's a group of us that will be taking a training, and then, so the way it'll work is we'll do our regular check-in, where you get your town meeting sticker, any additional, and then there'll be additional tellers that you'll have to check in to get your clicker.
So we're gonna have a go this coming town meeting?
Yes,
Have we bought them or leased them?
purchase.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions? If not, I'll ask anything from the public. If not, we thank you very much. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
you should be very proud. Your budgets are even requested and approved.
Yes.
Both sides. And the next department is the assessor, and that's on page 98. Good evening.
Good evening.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Ruth Anderson. I'm currently serving as your principal assessor. Our department is responsible for identifying all property for taxation in Shrewsbury, which includes market analysis and mass appraisal to determine fair and equitable assessments that meet the general law requirement to be at or near 100% fair market value. We also administer excise tax, statutory exemptions, abatements, update ownership records, locate and calculate growth. Our office also prepares and submits the recap to the DOR to obtain a certified tax rate. I also partner with the tax collector, Amy Perkins, on the Standing with Shrewsbury Tax Relief Fund. Work closely with public safety and our GIS coordinator on new addressing. This year, we work with Mark Serra at SMC to create and produce informational videos to play on the local access channel about timely issues that residents may have questions on, such as abatements, exemptions, excise tax, and our property inspection program. The office is currently staffed by myself. Tiffany Peters is our assistant assessor. Franklin Cropley is our assistant to the assessor. Karen Berger is our finance assistant, and Victor Pellegrino is our part-time data collector. After completing the 5-year reval for fiscal '26, the office is busy processing abatements for real estate and personal property, as well as the first commitment for excise tax, which is due Friday for everybody listening. We also received 248 applications for statutory exemptions and have granted over $299,000 in tax credit so far this year. The budget, as originally submitted, was reduced by $19,000, which was an amount that I requested to begin saving for the next 5-year revaluation, scheduled for fiscal 2031. But the work will need to begin in 2030. So I expect the cost for that project to be in excess of $100,000, just based on the fact that it was about 80 for this year. So just putting it on everybody's radar that will need to be funded. We kind of hoped we could do a little bit at a time, but didn't work out this year. We also saw an 11% increase in our annual cost of our CAMA system, which is our computer-assisted mass appraisal system, which is the database that holds everything that we use daily by each member of the department. So other than that increase, the budget is pretty much level funded. I did submit the one-page summary about our department, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yes, Dave?
Good evening. For the tax relief fund, it looks like we've only used about half of it, what you supplied. So are we seeing more people asking for it? It just seemed, I was surprised that how we've only been using about half of it over the last 4 years.
So because it's funded by donations, we don't want to get in the habit of spending everything we have, just in case next year there's nothing there. And as far as the number of applicants, we also were surprised this year at the small number of applicants that we got. So we're gonna be doing a hard look to figure out how to get the word out that this is available. We do mention it when people come to the office to get their regular statutory exemption application. We do mention it. We offer the forms. They either don't take them or don't bring them back. And to be perfectly honest, the whole point of this tax relief fund was to try to reach the people that are in the middle, people that don't quite qualify for the statutory exemption but still could use some help. And we're not seeing those people. So we need to do some research on how to get the word out so that people know that it's there, and then take the leap to apply for something, which means giving the town a lot of very nosy private information, which could also be stopping some folks from applying.
I don't mean to jump in right quickly on there. How much balance is in that reserve right now?
$44,379.21.
And the other thing is, I looked at the application, and is this driven by the state or the town?
So the orange one that you have in your hand, that's a statutory exemption, so that's driven by the state.
So everybody has to comply to this application?
So that's a separate program. So we offer statutory exemptions that every community in the Commonwealth has to offer.
That's this one?
That's that one. And that's for people that are of a certain age and have a limited income and asset. The standing with Shrewsbury is a separate, unique to this community tax relief fund that is funded by donations from residents, businesses. The select board voted to give it some seed money.
I understand.
Yep.
I'm talking the application.
Okay.
For the town, is that separate from this?
Yes, it is.
It is. They didn't offer that to me when I asked the application. And as I read through this, I can see why people would
It's a lot. Yep.
throw it away. It's just too much, in my opinion, looking at it. For somebody that's really hurting and needs help to fill out an application of this extent, to me, I think that's maybe one of the reasons we're not getting the people applying for it, myself.
It could very well be. There are a lot of people that do apply for the statutory one. So we have 248 applicants for the statutory exemptions this year. And like I said, we've granted over $299,000 in credit. So that one people know about. And I'd hate for anyone to not apply. We need your tax return, which everybody has, to prove the income, and we need your bank statements to show your assets.
If that was the only case, I think that would be great, but almost some of these questions a lawyer has to answer.
Well, we're always available to help if anybody has a question, and that's the form prescribed by the state.
Yeah. I just put it because I'm amazed at how few people are asking for it.
Yep.
On a yearly basis. So that's the only reason I bring it up.
Nope, we are too. So like I said, we're gonna look into that.
Yes, sir.
Has there ever been a data search of the people who are qualifying for these exemptions and the people who have liens against them from the town?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the second part.
So if property A gets a tax exemption or relief from the town, does anyone look to see, do we also have a lien on them for sewer tax or other things that haven't been paying?
So with standing with Shrewsbury, we do look at that because that's in-house, so to speak. With the statutory ones, if they meet the income and asset requirements, they have to get that.
Okay, thank you.
So the statutory exemptions, like the orange application that Mr. Budenhagen has, those are paid for out of the overlay account. Standing with Shrewsbury is paid for out of that separate tax relief fund account.
Yes, Victor.
Thank you, Ruth. I had a couple questions about the revaluation.
Okay.
So I'm assuming the revaluation is assessing all the properties in the town again. What would be the advantage of starting to appropriate money for that now as opposed to just doing it one payment at the time when we actually take that service?
Well, I think it's just a kind of a planning issue that if you put aside $20,000 a year, in 5 years you've got it paid for, rather than wait 5 years and I'll be here saying I need $100,000 in that 1 year. So I mean, it's I don't think there's one way that's better than the other. It's just how the town wants to approach it, knowing that there's going to be a large expense coming down the road.
Yes?
How did we do it for this time? This is my first
Lump
year on
sum.
the committee, so one lump sum. Okay.
Yep.
So this would be a new approach if we were
Yep.
to. Okay.
So best practice is to fund it over 2 years, because if you start it in July at the start of the fiscal year, you're already behind. So a lot of the work has to be done. In this case, will have to be started in fiscal 30. So that would be my approach again, is to maybe split it in half at that point.
Gene, Vikram, to your question, it is just an approach, but it's hard with our caps and finding those funds. Like, we always struggle with elections and registrations. Like, 1 year that's a lot, the next year it's down. It's so much easier for us to make sure that we have that consistent funding and don't, in that 5th year, we're unable to hire an important position that we need to do that year because we need to set funds aside for revaluation, where if we just keep the $20,000 in that line item every year, I know it's somewhat of an opportunity cost that we're giving up, but it's just easier for us to keep it in there every year.
I had one additional questions. Back several months ago in the little community advertised that you had a write-up about the apartment complexes in town and the value of those complexes that they were talking about. I'm just wondering, what type of a formula is used on a year-to-year basis? Because those places don't change hands like regular real estate does. Is there a factor you use, or?
So in general, we use what's called the income approach. So it's basically figuring out net operating income and then applying a capitalization rate to that. Cap rate is usually, with those properties, to be honest, right now, the cap rates are usually pretty low, which then translates to a higher assessed value because the money's there. So an investor is going to make their money back quicker. So that translates to a lower cap rate. That's generally how we do it. So we do get the income and income and expense information from all of our commercial and industrial properties, including the apartment complexes. And we'll go at it from the income side. If there are sales available to back that up, that's always good too.
Yeah. I was shocked how it's a very large value.
Yes, it is.
Very in this town.
And getting bigger.
Yeah, bigger on there. Is there anything from the public? Any question? No? If not, we thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
The next is the Human Resource and Personnel Board, and that's on page 90 and 83. Good evening.
Good evening. I am Christina Bordung. I'm the Assistant Town Manager for Human Capital. Thank you all for your time and attention this evening. I know it's been a long one, but I'm looking forward to reviewing these budgets together. Beyond myself, within the Human Resources Department, we have 2 HR coordinators and a benefits coordinator, and together we serve as employee advocates and management partners. Our core functions include talent acquisition, compensation and classification, collective bargaining, policies and procedures, leave and absence management, workers' compensation and 111F, health benefits and insurance, learning and development, succession planning, and performance appraisals. Our budget request consists of 4 salaries for the department staff, and our operating expenses consist of costs like our telephone stipend, 3 advertisements for within the Massachusetts Municipal Association website, our office supplies, dues to the Massachusetts Municipal Human Resources Association and the Massachusetts Municipal Managers Association, our custom drug testing dues for our drug testing program, funding for training and conferences for all 4 of the employees, mileage for these for travel to these conferences, our Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration queries for all of our CDL holding employees, and funding for employee appreciation and recognition. We are grateful in the increase in funding for our employee recognition. It has doubled from the prior fiscal year, and this is a brand new fund that the town has enjoyed over the last year. We have been very creative with this funding, stretching it as far as we can. Our initial budget request amounted to $15 per full-time employee, and it was cut to $7.50 per full-time employee. So we will continue to be creative. Some examples of events that we've hosted over the last year include a Halloween costume party with apple cider and donuts, a brunch on Shrewsbury's birthday, National Hot Tea Day mobile tea cart, and upcoming we will be celebrating Red Sox opening day with a hot dog picnic and having a summer barbecue. Some of the some of the feedback that we've received from employees outside of the town hall municipal complex is that we're unable to really appreciate police, fire, library, and now recreation employees because a lot of these events are centralized here at town hall. And so over the next fiscal year, we're going to be focusing on those other departments and being creative and doing the best that we can with the funding that we have. At this time, I would welcome questions from the Finance Committee.
Yes, Dave. What is our turnover rate for the last couple of years?
This year it's 9%, and I think last year it was 7%. So we do have a low turnover rate, and we're happy with those figures.
Question. Follow up on the turnover. Is the turnover due to people leaving for a better job, people retiring, people being let go?
So all of the above.
What would the breakdown be?
I can certainly provide you with that breakdown.
Great, thank you.
Victor?
Thank you, Jean. Thank you, Christina. It's more of an observation that I wanted to share. You mentioned about the challenges as far as salary being competitive in your memo, and it seems to be in this particular budget a general theme. And nothing again. I understand the constraints. We are facing challenges in terms of having people to do their jobs, having enough people to do their jobs, and it is concerning from a town perspective, from the bigger holistic perspective, that we are very stretched on our budgets, and it seems that this is directly correlated to the services that the town can provide to the residents. Because if you don't have enough people, if your people are not happy, they're going to go and look for other jobs, or you don't have enough people to do the job. We're getting this constant theme, and it is concerning in terms of how are we going to go forward. Is this something, is it a new, Kevin, maybe you can, is this a new phenomena, or is it, because I didn't remember this from previous budget hearings. And Christina's presentation and her memo sort of nails it, makes it seem all the more, sort of connects the dots, at least for me, that there's an underlying problem.
I don't think it's new, to be honest with you. There hasn't really been an organization or time in Shrewsbury where I thought that we were, really at optimal levels of staffing. It's always been, cutting or able to do one or two positions. And I know that may seem like a lot, but when we add 3 positions to an organization of, 330, it's not very significant, but the services and demands of the community are growing, faster than that. Wage growth has been an incredible challenge for the town recently, an extraordinary challenge maybe in comparison to the longer term. We have always benefited from stability, but wage inflation and cost of living doesn't buy us a lot with employees any longer. And also somewhat of I think a change in work habits and how long people stay with employers, and the value of a public pension is greatly diminished. There's just not a lot of people that, feel good about the town manager slapping them on the back and saying in 30 years you'll be fine, right? Just work through it. So, it has been a little bit more challenging on the wage growth sides. We have seen employees leave for that, and sometimes they're taking comparable positions at a 20% increase, and there's just nothing we can do to match that. So, Christina may be able to put a finer point on that than I am, but I think long-term municipal, it's not incredibly different, but the wage growth recently has put some extra pressure on us.
Yeah, I think you touched on all the important factors in a succinct way.
So I just had one follow-up to that. So does this in any way tie up to our master plan update in terms of, it seems like as a town, we have to somehow grow our revenue sources, and how that's done, none of us have a magic wand, but is this an input into our master plan as far as staffing the services that our town needs as it grows? Because that seems to be a challenge to me over the years.
Yeah. I mean, the revenue system in Massachusetts for municipalities requires real property growth for us to make changes. And, that means development is important, to sustaining service levels. Anytime inflation is outstretching 2.5%, right? That is the big cap. That is, as the Mass Municipal Association has called it, the perfect storm, right? Our core revenue, bucket, which is over $105 million of $165 million in expenditures, is capped at 2.5%, and then you add growth on top of that. So 2.5% for a long time, including some recent history, has been sustainable and manageable, but we're seeing it year after year. That's just not what, the means that we're able to live in, so to speak. So we need to be at 4%. And our revenue and the growth over the last 4 or 5 years has matched that, right? We have been lucky. But if there's an economic downturn and not a reciprocal adjustment, which there normally is, and wage growth and things like that, it'll be a even bigger challenge. So yes, there is incentive that exists in our revenue model to have growth within it.
Kevin, you just hit on something. I can't cite it exactly, but I feel like I've heard. Has there been any dialogue about Prop 2.5 at the state level?
Yeah.
I don't know if you can comment on it.
Yeah, there has been some. So the Mass Municipal Association put together a report identifying the challenges of Proposition 2.5, acknowledging the stability that it provides to municipalities, and not advocating to eliminate it, right? Advocating to provide local flexibility in the process if a community needs it. And that could come in a number of different ways. A local municipality could adopt one additional percent as their baseline or something like that, some tweaks around the edges. But that's the approach that is taken, and that started in earnest probably in October and November, those reports that have come out from the board, and we'll see where it goes. There's a lot of emphasis on state aid, because while Proposition 2.5 is limited at 2.5%, state aid, especially unrestricted general government aid that isn't restricted to education or something like that, has been even more flat, and that's our second largest revenue source. So when you take your first two revenue sources, you can put them together, and they're growing at 3% a year. It's limits your ability to do anything new. So that's kind of the overarching revenue challenge that we're facing. We've seen a couple years of extraordinary growth in Chapter 70 for school aid, and of course we put all of our revenues together, which has provided benefits to the schools and certainly the town as well. But that's kind of the first 5 years of the fair share tax or the millionaire's tax, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Yep. Okay.
There is an initiative, on, and I'm not going to make comment on what should happen with it, but there is an initiative petition that, could likely be on the fall state election to lower the state income tax. And, that's a key part of state revenues, and that could impact the amount of money that's available for municipalities. So it would lower it from 5% to 4%.
It's helpful. Thank you.
Yes, Dave.
So I worked in the public sector, and every year we had a letter, and it explained to us our benefits, because obviously we got paid less than the corporate world, but you look at the long-term benefits, because it's very hard to explain to people at 25, at 55, this is what your benefits will be. But it was a really good thing to see, because obviously the paycheck coming in, but longevity, because I'll tell people after 30-something years, it was worth it.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed it. But it is hard to explain that without those numbers in front of them. So that's maybe something we can do to help get that retention. All the sick days you get, the days off you get, the extra things. So just an idea.
Yeah, that is a great idea. I can tell you that through Employee Access this year, we're going to be conducting our open enrollment, and that will show the town share of employee benefits. So I think that's one step in the right direction. And then additionally, we've been exploring one of our 457 providers has a connection with different pension systems across the United States, including with mass teachers, and so we've been exploring if it can connect into our pension system to give employees a better projection of what their retirement would look like.
Right. Excellent.
Additional question? I just, the one comment, I think the benefit package is really the key to it for town employees, and I think a good example is the half-day off on Friday. Everybody I talk to seems to be, that's a great thing, a great benefit on there. So I think some of those things you're gonna have to be creative with in order to maintain them or draw them in, myself on there, so.
It's true. I mean, it's beneficial to residents that we're open late on Tuesdays, but it is a great benefit to town employees to get out early on the Friday. Much of these, small changes that we've made have come from employee feedback surveys. The alternative work schedule of late Tuesdays, early Fridays, and even paid family medical leave. These are things that our staff have asked for that we have created and implemented, and so I think that gets great buy-in from our employees, that when we ask for their feedback, we're listening and we implement those changes where we can.
And if I may add, I think one of the benefit could be also like, are we encouraging, our employees or town employees to attend some conferences for their own growth? I know you recently attended one with a couple of your colleagues, so thank you for doing that. But I think that's another benefit that we can explain it. Grow yourself along with, apply those learnings for the town, for the benefit of town, so.
Absolutely. Over the next couple fiscal years, we're going to be working on creating paths within departments for growth, and we absolutely encourage our employees to be a part of their state associations. Many of our department heads are leaders in their state associations, and not only is there funding in the budgets that you're reviewing, but also in the personnel board budget next, which is our next item on the agenda.
Before we proceed, any questions from the public? If not, we'll ask you to proceed.
So the operational expenses in the personnel board budget fund different trainings and conferences that our staff attend, but also in the past has funded programs like the Shrewsbury Way Emerging Leaders Academy. So those are town-sponsored events with our leadership coach and different leadership trainers that we bring here to Shrewsbury, and it offers opportunities for employees to have conversations with staff that they don't interact with every day, and build relationships across the organization and a better understanding of what the different departments do. And then under separate appropriations, this funding is utilized for the performance appraisal system for non-union staff, for union negotiations, which this year means the firefighters contract, and then also for any unbudgeted for changes that may happen throughout the fiscal year, such as negotiations with a new hire that go above the budgeted rate of the departing employee, or increasing a salary where we can to prevent an employee from leaving if they've interviewed elsewhere.
Questions, David?
Do you keep a reserve fund, or is it just year-by-year funding?
It's an 09 account, so it can roll over into the next
So
fiscal year.
It's 1 year rollover, or is it a no year rollover? So is it an X fund, or is it a fund just 1 year rollover?
It's a no-year rollover.
No year, okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No? Any questions from the audience? No? Thank you very much. On that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is to review the meeting schedule. I think we're all pretty well aware of that. Next will be Thursday, March 19th with the school department.
Point of order, I think you have to close the public hearing or pause it.
We're gonna continue it.
Continue it.
Continue it, okay.
Yeah, I was gonna do it at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, on there. We'll be with the school department, and that'll just be the school department itself on Thursday nights, and then we move into Saturday to continue the rest of the departments, and we'll finish up on Saturday, then we'll go to April the 9th. Will be public hearings on the annual town meeting warrants, and that will continue on April the 16th. And we'll continue on the warrants, and then we'll close out the warrants, and then we'll go to the annual town meeting on May the 18th. So, does anybody have any questions on those dates or anything? If not, I'll put off the correspondence until we go into Saturday, and we'll close those all out. In the meantime, we're gonna need a motion to continue the public hearing to this coming Thursday. Do I have a
Yep, so moved.
Second.
second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Well, and that will end it for the night, I would say. And we'll adjourn, and good night to everybody, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.